I grew up eating carne asada at other friends' homes. When I was younger, we didn't have a lot of food at home, and so I used to go ask my friends if I can go eat dinner at their house. And today it ain't like that. Today I'm able to provide for my family, and I don't gotta live that way, and they don't gotta live that way. And we all get together, and I get to watch them smile and laugh and run around the park. I learned to cook from my best friend Carlos. I learned how to cook from him. So every time that we come to barbecue, I make sure that I invite him, and he's more than a friend, he's family.
Bellator brings the brawlers to the raucous atmosphere at Dublin's 3 Arena. Benson Henderson steps into enemy territory against hometown hero Peter Queally. Plus, light heavyweight Yoel Romero is on a mission of destruction. But Melvin Manhoff wants to go out on top in the final fight of his storied career.
What a finish!
Bellator MMA, today, live from Dublin on Showtime.
The Bellator cage is back in Dublin, Ireland this week. This beautiful city, which is full to the brim with passionate fight fans. It is a place that never disappoints. It's a place of lyricism and artistry, but also of wondrous noise and spectacular drama. And Benson Henderson takes on Peter Queally, both hoping to stake their claim to a shot at the Bellator lightweight title. It promises to be a terrific fight on a terrific night here at the 3 Arena. John McCarthy, of course, will watch it all with me, Dave Farah. And John, I know that we can't wait for this entire prelim card, the main card too, but let's focus on that main event.
That main event is awesome because they match up so well and they do things in such a similar fashion, but they each have their strong points, and it's who can keep the fight in that area that I think is going to walk away with the win. When you're looking at Benson Henderson, you're talking about, look at the knees he throws. It's the variety of his attack, and he's super heavy with the legs, but his submission game is outstanding, and I think that's where he has the edge in this matchup. If this fight hits the ground, he will turn a bad position like you're seeing right now against Mamedov into a good position where he almost cranks off the submission. He's a guy that is called smooth for a reason, but Queally is what I call the working man's fighter. He just keeps coming. He's durable. He never stops. He has this Irish crowd in his hand, and when it gets to the ground, this is what he likes to do. You want to hit the ground with him, he's going to still hit you with elbows, hit you with shots, and make you wish that you never took him there. So this is a matchup. Both guys are outstanding. I can't wait to see this fight go down.
Doesn't it just set it up perfectly? What a night we've got in front of us. Let's take a look at the rest of the main card. The co-main, Yoel Romero, Melvin Manhoff. We cannot wait for that one. A big test for Leah McCourt. He'll be much loved inside this 3 Arena. She takes on Diana Silva. Mads Burnell, a real rising star, looking to bounce back from that Boric defeat against Pedro Carvalho. He'll be roared into this place, as will Kieran Clark. He'll kick off that main card against the late replacement who has a chance to change his life, Rafael Utzun. We'll kick off the prelims, though, with the welterweights. To get us underway, ahead of a great-looking card at the 3 Arena, a high-level matchup. The Dublin-based Moldovan Luka Poclit and Dante Schiro.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, ready to make his way to the cage, Luka Poclit.
This tough man gentleman from Moldova, Luka Poclit, now fighting out of SBG Ireland here in Dublin, has twice been disappointed when he thought he was on the brink of his Bellator debut. The first time because of COVID, the second due to an injured opponent. That makes tonight all the more special for him, and it's been some journey to get here. A difficult childhood, salvation through wrestling, and now a set of skills that see him get a chance in Bellator. And like so many of these fighters, John, a chance he's determined to take.
You're talking about a guy, he lost his first MMA fight. Since that point, he's undefeated. 7-0 from that point. His wrestling is outstanding. He has talked about, I've been waiting too long for this. I get a little anxious because I've waited so long. But now comes the time. He's got a great opponent. He gets a win against Dante Schiro. That's a big step forward.
And now we welcome his opponent, Dante Schiro.
Well, Dante Schiro is a good guy, an unassuming guy, but even he might be forgiven for wondering what he's doing opening the prelim show here tonight. 2 fights ago on his Bellator debut, he lost by a split decision against Logan Storley, and that looks to be a pretty good line of form right now. Last time he grabbed the first Bellator win, he's 9-3, and should he win tonight, there'll be opportunities for him higher up the fight card, but his mind is on tonight. But what a start to bring him into the cage.
I'll tell you what, Dante Schiro comes in with a wrestling background, but it's his striking and his jiu-jitsu that is really impressive. Here he was in Hawaii and just putting on a great performance, wearing his opponent down, breaking him down to the point where he could no longer be involved in the fight. The fight was called. That was his first Bellator win, coming off of that Logan Storley split decision loss. But his ground game is outstanding. So if Luka takes the fight down there, man, it is not going to be an easy go.
The tale of the tape between the welterweights, Luka Poclit and Dante Schiro. And John, you want to look at that 5-year age gap.
You know, that's really the only difference that you'll see if you take a look at these highlights. It is that Dante Schiro is the younger fighter, and Luka has been waiting for this fight. Has time caught up? I don't think so. At 33, he's still young. This is a great matchup.
Well, time now for the first time this evening to hear from our Bellator Master of Ceremonies, of course, Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 3 Arena as Bellator MMA is back in Dublin, Ireland. Tonight, Bellator 285 gets underway now. The prelims start with 3 5-minute rounds in the welterweight division. Introducing first, the blue corner. At 6 foot, weighing in 169.7 pounds. His professional record, 7 wins, 1 loss by way of Moldova. He fights out of Dublin, Ireland, presenting Luka Poclit. And across the cage, his adversary, out of the red corner, at 6 foot 1, weighing in 169.9 pounds. As a professional, 9 victories, 3 defeats, fighting out of Denver, Colorado by way of Madison, Wisconsin, USA, presenting Dante Schiro. In charge, your referee, Brian Miner.
Well, there's been so much talk about tonight, about what's going to happen all through this terrific prelim card, and then, of course, into that stacked main card. It just feels like a thrill to get things underway, as we've said, with a really high-level fight. Luka Poclit, the Moldovan from SBG Ireland, in the blue gloves against Dante Schiro, who feels that he might just be going places.
Luka Poclit is very aggressive in his style. When you watch him, he starts to get comfortable in the fight. He's always coming forward, always trying to do damage. Dante Schiro is the guy, man. He's going to stay on the outside. He's going to move. He's going to give you different looks. But his defensive wrestling is really good. And when the fight hits the ground, look for him to really look for submissions if he's underneath.
Bit of cautious stand-up just to start things off here. Both looking for those early inside leg kicks. Schiro actually Landed a couple of good early leg kicks. A bit more tentative from Poclit. I know a lot of people, by the way, close to the sport here in Ireland have been really looking forward to seeing Luka Poclit. There was quite a lot of gym talk about him. Been waiting so long, of course, for this debut.
That was a really nice uppercut by Dante Schiro with the left hand. Caught Luka a little off guard. He's got him a little confused right now. You can see it just by the mannerisms of Luka. If you've seen him fight before, he does come forward a lot. And when he's not coming forward, that's telling he's not real comfortable with the range and what's going on.
It's a good kick to the body there from Luka Poclit. Schiro said he thought he mixed things up pretty well last time, previously against Storley. I think he felt he showed him too much respect. He'd watched him wrestle in college and was maybe a little bit overawed by him.
You know, just like you saw right there when you saw Schiro go to the body, he needs to up the progression of that. Don't just hit him with one shot. Go with the combinations. Hit that 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where you're going to see a lot of success.
He's been lining up that leg kick. That's the most accurate, the most wearing so far from Schiro.
Schiro's been very accurate with that low calf kick, and you can already see the marks on Paquet's leg.
John mentioned at the start, Poclit lost on his debut in Romania against Mardabek Taisimov, but 7 wins since. Again, that calf kick from Schiro, landing almost in the same spot every time.
That's exactly what I was going to. And beautiful accuracy, and it was in almost the same spot.
Use the sweep as well. Use your legs.
Now, Poclit's got his hands together. That usually is going to end up meaning you're going to get that takedown. We'll see what Schiro can do on the ground. He's already got wrist control. Poclit doing a nice job of trying to step himself over.
Poclit has that strong wrestling background. Schiro, I know you've always been impressed with the work he can do off his back.
Many times when you get a guy that's got a wrestling background, they're so uncomfortable with being off their back, they just never get really good with it, and he has. That was a really beautiful pass right there by Poclit.
Schiro said beforehand that Poclit has cardio and grit, but he may not be the most skillful. I guess he's going to start to find out. Pressure on the neck there from Luka Poclit.
Poclit is really looking for that topside guillotine, and you're seeing the legs of Dante Schiro keep him at that distance where he can't close in, and that was a beautiful reversal by Dante Schiro, and that's what I was talking about. On the ground, he is slick.
Yeah, Poclit was just trying to attack that arm, trying to isolate, but Schiro was having none of that.
Schiro can move into a Von Flue choke with where he's at right now. He's not even thinking about it, though, because that arm would be trapped. If he would bring his right arm underneath, he's more looking for an arm triangle choke.
Schiro just trying to maneuver himself into that position.
Well, he's got the position. What he's trying to do is keep that arm and secure that arm up against the head of Poclit. If he can get that arm there, no, he's decided doesn't have it, was too much, takes them out. Now, Poclit did a great job of reversing the position, but Dante Schiro right away takes the back. He hooks the leg over. This is not a good position for Poclit.
Yeah, Poclit's in a terrible position now. Schiro looking for those elbows, didn't feel he could get the choke in.
And you can tell on the ground, Schiro is just a step ahead of Poclit.
That's good opening round. Good high-level stuff there from Schiro. Take a look back at some of the action from that opening round, John. Those early kicks from Schiro.
Look at where that hit, right on the meaty part of that calf, if there is a meaty part of the calf. And then he ends up hitting it again multiple times. This was a beautiful takedown by Poclit. He gets it to the ground, but bad things started to happen on the ground with Schiro, and we talked about the skill level of Dante Schiro on the ground. He showed that he is a step ahead throughout all the maneuvers that you're seeing. And that's got right now in Luka Poklit's head. He's got to be thinking, man, this guy's a lot different than I thought on the ground.
Cody Donovan, a word for Dante Schiro from Madison, Wisconsin, but based in Denver, Colorado. Round 2 then.
Good.
Poclit said that he wants the fight to last as long as possible. So proud of his cardio. And one of those who loves being in there fighting. Any questions about how you would score that opening round, John? First time I'm going to ask you that tonight.
That was an easy round. If you're going to be scoring it, that goes to Dante Schiro, 10-9. He was the guy that had the better positions, controlled the fight where he wanted, landed good kicks, a couple of nice shots to the body. Should be his round.
Easy round to open. I'm promising it's going to get tougher.
A whole lot tougher. But if you're Luka Poclit, at this point, you've lived your entire MMA career off your ability to wrestle, take people down, and grind on them. Your first opportunity to do that against Schiro did not go as planned. You had problems. So is he going to go back to trying to take it down? And he is.
He did it nice, neatly, and effectively.
Schiro is looking for to take a look where his arm is. It's a beautiful switch right there that he's trying to pull off. A lot of pressure down on Poklit's shoulder.
Goes back to that point you were making in the first round that Schiro just feels like he's that half a second ahead all the time in terms of thought processes.
Luka going after that. When you don't have your legs involved in that guillotine choke, it's very difficult to get. Schiro doing a nice job lacing that arm. Look how he's taking his right arm, taking the right arm of Poclit. He's controlling it now so he can open up with his left hand.
Schiro's been beaten 3 times, but 2 of those were via split decision.
Schiro made a very good attempt at taking the back. Luka was right with him, rolled through with it, got top position. Both guys now on the ground. Both guys showing a lot of slick movement. But again, you notice how high Luka ends up getting. Poklit's getting too high on Schiro. That's where you've seen Schiro dip his head in. He's getting so high. Going for the guillotine, arm-in guillotine attempt. He does not have it. It's tight, but Schiro is in a position you can tell by where his head's at. He's getting some air.
Well, the crowd are getting excited by it, but Schiro always felt like he was in control of that.
And you got to figure how much energy did Poclit use there, how gassed is his arms. It wasn't on that long. But Dante moves sliding right into mount. Beautiful movement.
He's trying to defend that.
Well, Poclit was able to actually turn this position one time already.
Schiro's just trying to free his arms so he can do some damage here.
You see him moving his knees up underneath going towards being underneath the armpits of Poclit. That's going to put a lot of pressure. It's going to take his hips out of the game also. Big elbow.
Spoke before about Poklit's cardio, how proud he is of it. He better be right now, because this is taking a lot out of him.
But you're also going against a guy in Schiro who comes from Colorado, trains at elevation. You could look at both guys. Neither one was hardly breathing as the second round started. Beautiful movement by Dante Schiro. Poclit going for that reversal. Schiro going with him. High head in this position is usually the one that's going to come out on top.
It's that fight IQ, isn't it, of Dante Schiro here.
These guys are locked up inside. I love what I'm seeing right now because they're both knowing. Schiro wants to pop his head out. Poclit wants to his head. Neither guy can do it. There it comes. Once it comes up to the top. He's out.
Wow. Wow. Brian Minor saw it. So much pressure there. Almost pressure on both of them. You can see the state they're in.
You're talking about a position, both guys were in position, they were getting choked, but it was obvious now that Poclit's was a better hold. He had a deeper and more squeeze on it and was able to put Dante Schiro out.
Look at the trouble that Poclit's in here. That shows what a strange situation it was. Almost Schiro was still down, and of course the doctor's tending to him, but here it is again, John.
And as he turns here, look at Dante Schiro, but he ends up where Poclit has his head. Notice where his arm's at across. You see Schiro having his arm crossing over into his neck. That's the choke that you're seeing from Poclit. And then all of a sudden, it almost looked like Dante, no, he didn't tap, that was Brian Minor moving his hand. He just went to sleep.
Schiro's okay. He's sitting up now. Well, Poclit, I mentioned there was a lot of excitement around him. And people were looking forward to seeing him and seeing how he came out of that SBG gym on Bellator debut. And big smile on the face of John Kavanagh there, because that is a really good start from Luka Poclit, and it's a big disappointment too for Dante Schiro. And it's good to see him sitting up and talking to his team here.
That's one of those when you're in it, you think, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay, I'm squeezing, I'm going to be okay. And just all of a sudden, people are waking you up and you're going, what happened?
Well, it's a fourth defeat for him. He'll come back from that, lessons learned and all of that, but disappointment for Dante Schiro. The world, though, is Luka Poclit's oyster at the moment. I think a lot of people are going to look forward to seeing him again. Being put under pressure, but in the end, he did what fighters do. He found a way.
This is why we talk about being in the scramble, never giving up, never giving into that, because in that scramble, anything can happen. And that's what we just saw.
Let's make things official with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, inside the Bellator cage, it comes to an end officially. 4 minutes, 31 seconds into round number 2. The modified arm triangle, now called the Lukinator, puts it to a stop. The winner by technical submission, Luka Poclit.
So a Bellator debut and a win for Luka Poclit. Technical submission in round number 2 gets the win over Dante Schiro. Now, for the first time this evening, let's hand to our friend and colleague, Aidan Power.
Thank you, friend and colleague Dave Farrar. It's so good to be back here in my hometown of Dublin, Quayside, for Bellator 285. What a way to start our show, and how will it end tonight? In our main event, the fans are in for a treat because Benson Henderson is back on Irish soil. He is looking for another world title. World title number 3. Can it be his first in Bellator? Well, he's got to get past Ireland's Peter Queally, the much beloved son. So Benson arrives here off the back of a very important win over Islam Mammadov, a rejuvenating win as he described it. He's just signed a new 4-fight contract, and he says there is plenty of gas still in the tank. A combination of his 39-fight experience and his pace will be the difference tonight. Well, for Peter Queally, who's ranked 7th in the division, as he said, it's been a frustrating and challenging 10 months, losing to Patricky Pitbull here in Dublin, then having to sit out the show in February with a rib injury, and then undergoing shoulder surgery. But he is back, and he is promising a 25-minute war against Benson Henderson tonight. And we know, folks, it's going to be an incredible main event. But before it even starts, what about that walkout? Whatever you're doing today, tonight, this evening, make sure you do not miss that walkout. It's going to be incredible. Dave.
Thanks very much indeed, Aidan. He's not wrong, you know. Time now for an explosive match at featherweight between a supreme stand-up guy in Adjoudj and the multi-talented Jordan Barton, who had a great win in Paris last time out.
And now ready to make his way to the cage, Jordan Barton.
Well, Jordan Barton says that he's never been in a dull fight, and from what these Dublin fans have seen of him, there'd be no argument at all. The last time he was here, and what was a great night of action, he was in that topsy-turvy war against Kieran Clark, which he really threw away in round 3, and he's since bounced back against Abakari Diatta in Paris in May. An outstanding and dominant display, and Jordan Barton is one of those interesting fighters, John. There's so much talent there.
He is really outstanding everywhere. His stand-up is so sharp, so clean. He got caught by a guy in Kieran Clark that is a specialist in a certain position. He got the back. He was able to get that choke in. Jordan wasn't able to stop it, but every time we have watched him, just like he says, he is never in a boring fight. So this should be outstanding. This is the time he might be fighting someone who's even more skilled in that stand-up area.
And now to make his way, Adjoudj.
Adjoudj heads into the Bellator cage for the 3rd time and does so off the back of 3 consecutive wins. His Bellator journey started with a defeat against Konstantin Vanitsa back in 2020. Then he got back on track, and now this talented fighter from a serious kickboxing background hopes to continue his self-prescribed journey to be the next big thing in MMA. All the talent in the world, this guy.
Boy, he is so slick in the stand-up, and that's why I was saying Jordan Barton is outstanding, but this guy does some things at times you go, oh my God, that was done so well, so fast. It might be good for Jordan to try to take him down, but you know, Adjoudj just came to Ireland to be with SBG, to get his ground game up to snuff, to be a great MMA fighter. We're going to see if he can handle what Jordan Barton can bring.
The tale of the tape between the featherweights, Adjoudj and Jordan Barton. And John, that reach differential could end up being absolutely key.
Especially with the speed of Adjoudj, 71.5 to 68. We'll see if it makes that difference.
Let's get to Michael C. Williams.
From here at 3 Arena, we'd like to welcome all those joining us live on Virgin here in Ireland as the prelims move now to 3 5-minute rounds in the featherweight division. Introducing first, the blue corner at 5'10", weighing in 146 pounds even. His professional record, 7 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. From Manchester, England, Jordan Barton. And across the cage, his adversary out of the red corner at 6 foot, weighing in 146 pounds as a professional. 3 victories, 1 loss, fighting out of Dublin, Ireland, introducing Adjoudj. In charge, your referee, Kevin McDonald.
There could be fireworks here. Wouldn't take your eyes off this one. Adjoudj will want this on the feet. Can Jordan Barton, a few people have said, could he put his ego aside here and do the right thing to win the fight? Or will he try and bang Adjoudj out? Will he try and prove he's better on his feet? Let's see, John.
I don't think Jordan Barton has ever backed down from a fight or a challenge, so I think we're going to see him on the feet for a while here.
Funny when you talk around the fight hotel and talk around the venue, you get a sense of what people think, and there are so many split opinions about this fight, about what they should both do, about who's going to come out on top.
Beautiful kick, and then a return with the counter of the right hand up by Jordan Barton.
Adjoudj describes himself as fighting out of Dublin by way of Marseille, the son of an Algerian immigrant in France. The only thing he ever liked was fighting, and he's become very, very slick, very good at it, particularly with those kicks. But Barton looks to take it down. That's what so many people wanted to see from him.
This is what we were talking about. Was Jordan Barton going to let his ego get involved, or was he going to use fight IQ to take him down when the opportunity presented itself and use what is actually a superior ground game at this point of their careers? But Adjoudj getting back to his feet. This is what he's been learning at SBG. Nice foot sweep to take him right back down.
felt like a little fight within the fight.
Well, at least the one thing it's doing for Barton, even though he didn't keep him down there, it's telling Adjoudj, yep, he's going to try and take him down. So he's got to be thinking about that and all the little feints inside he's got to react to. So if Barton looks for, you know, a change of levels, and all of a sudden you see the hands of Adjoudj going down, he might bring something over the top.
Adjoudj constantly switches his stance, and you've got to be so careful when you do that not to get caught square. Good kick though from Adjoudj, that landed.
One of the things when you're watching Adjoudj, watch most of his hand strikes, all straight shots. They get there fast, and they're getting there in a straight line.
Trying to land that jab, such an important punch in fights like this. Really high-paced, high energy.
A lot of
opening half of the opening round here.
Barton doing the right thing, stepping into that spinning attack. Barton got touched on that.
He was touched, and he was more than touched there. The kick from Adjoudj and the finish. That is electrifying from Adjoudj. He's back in Bellator.
It's one thing knowing what you can do. It's another doing it under pressure like that against a top opponent.
You saw all that forward pressure that Jordan was bringing. But let's take a look at, there was a shot that landed here, and I said, he's hurt. Watch this straight shot. Look, the hook right there. I thought it was first with the left hand, then the right hook. That hurt Barton. Barton should have given ground at this point. Kick up high, lands beautifully. Look at the legs go stiff. He's able to at least control his fall, but when he hits the ground, he just starts to cover up. Adjoudj goes after him. Referee Kevin McDonald makes a good stop on a fight that did not last that long.
It's a clinical finish from Adjoudj. And he talked so much after that Konstantin Planita fight about doing things wrong, about making the wrong decisions, not showing off his skills. He was desperate to come here and prove that he could do it. Rebuilt a bit over in Abu Dhabi, and he has come bursting back onto the scene here.
He put on a beautiful performance against a guy that was putting a lot of pressure, knew what he could do, and just bided his time, got his opportunity, took it.
Smiling conversation between Adjoudj and John Kavanagh. Well, that's so disappointing for Jordan Barton after the defeat by Kieran Clark to bounce back the way he did against Fabakary Diatta, and then to just be caught by that high kick, wonderfully accurate, and Barton beaten, but he'll be back. And he does say he's never in a dull fight, and he's not wrong. It just didn't last very long. But you wonder about Adjoudj and where he might go next. That moves into 2-1 in the Bellator cage, 4-1 overall, and you just sense he might be a fighter who just gets better and better. Well, let's get to Michael C. Williams now to make it official.
Ladies and gentlemen, it comes to an end officially. 2 minutes, 39 seconds into round number 1. The winner by TKO, Adjoudj.
Terrific win that for Adjoudj. Gonna see so much more of him, but let's get it up now to Big John.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Adjoudj. You put on a beautiful performance. You had a guy going after you with a lot of pressure. You knew he was trying to take you down at times, but you stayed relaxed. You threw a lot of straight shots. What was going through your head during that part of the first round?
Yeah, first round I knew that he was going to come aggressive, so that was I was like kind of figuring out first. Then I saw the opening, I worked that with my, since I'm a kid, I'm training striking with my dad there. And now with Adjoudj, when I'm in Ireland, we worked a lot on the checked hook, look down, head kick. And that's just what happened tonight. Alhamdulillah, I'm very happy. And I want to thank John Kavanagh as well. With him, I will never be there. And all of the people are supporting me. Thanks and good luck to all of my teammates from SBG tonight.
Well, that was a fantastic finish. Congratulations on a big win. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Adjoudj.
Terrific win for Adjoudj. There's that SBG team and a proud father as well. That will be a picture for the family album, and who knows where his career might go next. So plenty of action already here tonight in Dublin, and of course a lot of action coming your way.
Two of Bellator's biggest stars co-headline the most stacked fight card of the year.
Time to let me off of my leash.
Patricio Pitbull makes his featherweight title defense versus lightning quick Adam Boric.
Push the button.
Plus, AJ McKee moves to lightweight to face upset-minded Spike Carlisle. It's Pitbull versus Boric and McKee versus Carlisle. Bellator MMA, Saturday, October 1st, live on Showtime.
From the gym to the streets, Bellator fans head to BellatorShop.com and gear up in the same apparel the fighters wear.
Bellator brings the brawlers to the raucous atmosphere at Dublin's 3 Arena. Henderson steps into enemy territory against hometown hero Peter Queally. Plus, light heavyweight Yoel Romero is on a mission of destruction. But Melvin Manhoff wants to go out on top in the final fight of his storied career.
What a finish!
Bellator MMA, today, live from Dublin on Showtime.
It is fast incoming from Dublin, Ireland. Bellator 285. Our 5-fight main card kicks off at 9 o'clock local time. That's 4 o'clock Eastern in the States. And in our co-main event, two of the most exciting and dynamic and explosive knockout artists we have ever seen go toe-to-toe and fist-to-fist. Yoel Romero is taking on Melvin Manhoff. This fight has been talked about for a long, long time. It was finally made in May. On that night in Paris, we saw Romero just toying with Alex Polizzi to send a reminder to everyone of his supreme strength, ability, and indeed power. That message was not only for Melvin Manhoff, but also for everyone at 185, because that is where Romero told us he is headed next, his beloved division. But tonight, he wants to take the scalp of a legend. For Manhoff, there may be no return. This most likely will be it for one of the most dangerous and scary and frightening fighters in all of mixed martial arts. He has knocked out 29 of 32 opponents, and what a way to cap off an incredible career by claiming win number 30 over a legend in the Soldier of God, Yoel Romero. Whatever happens, it is going to be a shootout here in Dublin. You do not want to miss it. Dave.
You certainly don't want to miss that. That is going to be something. Romero against Manhoff, but we're going to see the latest talent from SBG Ireland. That's quite a good night for them already. Kenny Mokhonoana makes his Bellator debut. He's up against another promotional debutant in the shape of Alex Bodnar.
And now making his way to the cage, Alex Bodnar.
Well, the Slovakian Alex Bodnar makes his way to the Bellator cage for the first time. As we always say of a fighter on their Bellator debut, a real chance to make a statement, to leap further towards the center of the picture. 6 foot tall, which will give him a height and reach advantage more often than not. At 145 pounds, he's going to try and make that work to his advantage tonight against a fellow debutant. He might just have his hands full, though.
Yeah, but he's a very well-rounded fighter. He's got good stand-up. He understands the ground, comes up with submission wins. This is a fight where normally you're talking about his height, and he does have the advantage. This is one time he doesn't.
And now his opponent, Kenny Mokhonoana.
So Kenny Mokhonoana believes that he can become the best featherweight on the planet and change his family's life. And that journey for him starts here as one of the latest fighters from that production line at SBG Island. And he begins his journey to his destiny. Fight number 4, he comes here with a 3-0 record. And now, for all the talk, it is up to him.
All that talk, but you know what? He has backed up everything that he said. He's got 3 wins, all by submission. He's very good on the ground. He uses his length very well. This is one where both 6 foot tall in the featherweight division. This is going to be a good one.
The tail of the tape for the featherweights, Kenny Mokhonoana and Alex Bodnar, both making their Bellator debuts, and you picked out their records to take a look at.
Just to say, they're both very young fighters. You would go by the age, but 3-0, 4-1-1. Guys are looking to impress so they can move on with their careers and get to the point where they're getting those title shots.
Let's get to the cage, shall we? And to Michael C. Williams.
And as the prelims continue here in Ireland, we welcome all those streaming live tonight on YouTube at Bellator MMA and Showtime Sports, as we go now to 3 5-minute rounds in the featherweight division. Fighting first out of the blue corner at 6 foot, weighing in 145.6 pounds as a professional. 4 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw by way of Slovakia. He fights out of Portsmouth, England, Alex Bodnar. And across the cage, his adversary out of the red corner at 6 foot, weighing in 146 pounds even. As a professional, he stands undefeated at 3-0, fighting out of Dublin, Ireland, Kenny Mokhonoana. In charge, your referee, Brian Miner.
You always get this sense when we're here in Dublin that the fans really start to come in round about this point, start to pack the place out already, and you could hear that with those cheers for Kenny Mokhonoana. They know their stuff here, they know who they're supporting. Bodnar has not just Mokhonoana to deal with, but this crowd as well.
You just got to put all that with the crowd behind. They're not in the cage, so just deal with what you have in front of you, and that's Kenny Mokhonoana.
John said all 3 of his wins have come by submission, and that's where he wants it, and that's where he gets it here.
Nice job of stepping over the leg there by Mokhonoana. Puts his back flat to the canvas. Nice and relaxed, taking his time, looking for heavy elbow strikes. Smart to go to the elbow strikes right away.
Real strength from Mokhonoana, trying to force his way into that mount position if he can.
Very nice job by Bodnar to get himself back into the full guard. He's trying to control posture here. Nice foot on the hip. That allows him to be able to swing into the different submission attacks.
From Gym 101 down in Portsmouth, Brian Adams does a really good job down there. Well-rounded fighters that he produces. Bodnar will have known what to expect here.
Mokhonoana really needs to get his right hand off of the ground. Having your hand on the ground there only allows Bodnar to have the ability to trap that.
Good head position there, isn't it, from Mokhonoana? Just
very nice use of his head.
Getting the pressure into the chin there of Bodnar.
You see Bodnar bringing both of those legs together. It's like, you know, you want to separate them. Finally got him separated there. Get himself back, gets the underhook.
The voice there of Brian Adams just telling him to use those underhooks. Knees there from Mokhonoana. Trying to let his hands go here.
Nice takedown by Bodnar.
Be careful with that neck position though, Bodnar.
Biggest problem right now is you can see Bodnar's got that position as far as look at how Mokhonoana is pressing in on that neck. He's going to end up going out. He's out. He's out.
Mokhonoana with a win. Bodnar could not cope with that pressure on the neck. And Mokhonoana announces himself to this Dublin crowd, but our thoughts at the moment are with Alex Bodnar, who's slowly coming to here, but will need attention.
When we go back to showing what that submission was like, yes, it's a key thing, but watch how he takes and the positioning of his arms, and he's pressing his arm over. It's almost creating a scissor-like effect on the neck of Bodnar. See here, he doesn't have his hand. He's just got the one arm in, but then he takes his other hand. Notice how he presses it up into. Look at how tight that is, and he's just forcing that to pinch off on the neck. That is super tight right now. Bodnar at this point is in big trouble, and you'll watch him just go out. That little kick is him saying that's it, and he's out right there.
Yeah, Brian Minor got himself into position to see, and Mokhonoana emotional here. It's a big win that for him. There was pressure on him even as the favorite. He goes to 4-0. And he salutes this crowd as well. Bodnar, you can see in the background now, up and sitting on his stool, rueful smile on his face, but they've got so many local favorites here, so many potential stars, and I would say to you already, what a night it is for John Kavanagh, Luca Poclit in a 50-50, Adjoudj likewise, and now, well, Kenny Mokhonoana was expected to win, but that was still seriously impressive from him. Bodnar was holding his own, wasn't he? But it was that pressure. And once Mokhonoana had the neck, he wasn't letting go. Let's get up now to make it official with Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, inside the Bellator cage, it comes to an end officially. 2 minutes, 42 seconds. Round number 1. The end comes by way of a guillotine by technical submission. He's still undefeated. Mokhonoana.
He is going to rocket through the ranks, isn't he, Mokhonoana? We can hear from him now. Kind words for his opponent, but let's get up to Big John.
Nice to meet you, this is great. I've been watching UFC
all that time, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the winner, Kenny Mokhonoana. That was a beautifully set up submission that a lot of people are not going to realize how you placed your hands, why it was so tight. Yeah. Even your opponent didn't kind of get an idea until it was too late.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you felt in this cage.
I won't lie. It's a bit weird for me being here. Like, obviously, it's even weird for me talking to you, you know what I mean? And it's a weird stage, so I don't feel like I got very comfortable in there with my strikes and with my hands and that, but yeah, I got the job done anyways. you're saying with the finish, obviously, you want the elbow to be at the chin, so it's on deep. So I made sure quick that I got my elbow in, or else I think a good fighter like him would have got out of that.
Talk to me about what the training at SBG has done for you as a fighter, as far as your confidence coming in here.
100%. Obviously, I come from a great gym in Blanchardstown, Dublin, and yeah, so from there, obviously, John and Dave took me under their wing for my professional fights, and yeah, the little details make a big difference that they're showing me, and I've only been there just over a year, so I feel like I'm just a baby, like where I'm at. You know what I mean? So I'm a veteran, but I'm a rookie and a vet. So yeah, we'll see what they'll show me in the next few fights. They're definitely going to be better than that, 100%. I'm better than what I showed, even though I didn't get to show much again.
You showed a lot. You came in here, you didn't take any damage. How fast do you want to get back in here with another fight?
As soon as possible, I hope. We'll see what happens. You know what I mean? I'll go back, talk to the team. I'll lead and fight next week if possible. But yeah, let me just give me a week to get back to Blanchardstown, get back to me gaff, and yeah, bro, this is my big up the crowd, bro. I love you, yeah. I feel the energy. I love you, I'm bleeding. Daddy is I, yeah. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Kenny Mokhonoana.
And they do put their hands together. They love him here, don't they? Just brilliant from him. Fantastic action so far. Of course, much more action coming your way.
The new Bellator MMA app is here. New look, new features, new fights. Watch live weigh-ins and prelims. Share your fight picks. Earn points and badges as you rank up to the heavyweight division. And stay up to date on events, rankings, and news. For all the latest features, download the new Bellator MMA app. Available on the App Store and Google Play.
Bellator brings the brawlers to the raucous atmosphere at Dublin's 3 Arena. Henderson steps into enemy territory against hometown hero Peter Queally. Plus, light heavyweight Yoel Romero is on a mission of destruction. But Melvin Manhoff wants to go out on top in the final fight of his storied career.
What a finish!
Bellator MMA, today, live from Dublin on Showtime.
And we are live right now from the Irish capital, Dublin City, bringing you the prelims of Bellator 285. And already, as you've seen, if you've been watching, they've got off to an oh-so-incredible start. I just got myself a souvenir, folks. Check that out. That's from our winner in the last fight, Kenny Mokhonoana. It'll either go up online or I'll give it back to him. All right, it's been that kind of day already, and it's only going to get bigger and better here in Dublin. Slap bang in the middle of our main card this evening sees the return of Leah McCourt. Will take on Brazil's Diana Silva. These are two top 10 featherweights with very contrasting styles, and as we see, McCourt currently sits at number 5. Silva not far behind at number 7. For Leah McCourt, it has been a rapid rise in her pro career. The judo black belt went on a very impressive 6-fight win streak. And she's also the first female to headline a Bellator card in Europe. However, that run came to a halt in this very arena, in this very cage, last February when she faced Sinead Kavanagh in one of the biggest all-Irish fights in many years. She came out on the wrong end of a unanimous decision in a grueling contest that for many was fight of the night. Well, she has made changes. She now trains with Molly McCann and Paddy Pimblett in Liverpool. And as she told us, a change is as good as a rest. And she's coming in here for this one 100% fit and healthy. For her opponent, Diana Silva, well, she arrives here with a win over Janae Harding. She's already mixed it up with the former champ, Julia Budd, and indeed Arlene Blenko. And she believes her predominant striking style, her controlled aggression, and having her husband in the corner will be the difference tonight. And she will be the one to silence this Irish crowd. It's going to be very exciting. That is just one of 5 great fights on our main card, which starts at 4 on Showtime.
Yeah, thanks, Aidan. Now you go backstage and give it back to him. That's our message from here. Go and give it. That's not going up online. Go and give it back to him, and we'll come back to you later on in the course of the evening. Now, I know that a lot of people were picking out our next fight as a fight of the night candidate. Georgi Karakhanyan against Kane Mousah at lightweight. It promises us so much.
And now to make his way to the cage, Kane, the now, Georgi Insane Karakhanyan.
Well, Georgi Karakhanyan says that he performs better when the pressure is on, and he's on a losing streak, having lost his last two against really good opponents. But that's where this 37-year-old is. Remarkable fighter as he steps into the Bellator cage for the 21st time. And he wanted this fight. He specifically asked for it, John. He thinks he can win it and himself make a statement here.
He did ask for this fight, but and at lightweight, because both of these guys used to be featherweights, at lightweight, I think we're going to see a much better fight between both of them. They both have their strong points in the game. Georgi Karakhanyan is outstanding on the ground. Black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's got a nasty, nasty guillotine choke that Kane has got to be careful of sticking his head into that hole.
The tale of the tape between the lightweights, Georgi Karakhanyan and Kane Mousah, who both bring a lot of experience into the cage.
They do, and that's really what we're pointing out here, is look at all of the experience. Karakhanyan, Kane Mousah had that time in prison, so he wasn't able to fight for a while, but he has been busy, he is active, and this man is good.
Time now for Michael C. Williams.
Tonight here at Bellator 285, the prelims continue now as we go to the lightweight division, scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. Introducing first the blue corner at 5'8", weighing in 155.7 pounds. His professional record, 13 victories, 4 defeats by way of Adjoudj. He fights out of Manchester, England. Kane, the Danger Mousah. And across the cage, his adversary, fighting out of the red corner at 5'8", weighing in 156 pounds even. The veteran professional brings 31 victories, 13 losses, 1 draw. Fighting out of Riverside, California, USA, Georgi Insane Karakhanyan. In charge, your referee, Kerry Hatley.
Well, John mentioned that guillotine of Karakhanyan. Let's just be clear, 14 of his 16 submission wins have come via choke. 6 of those with that famous guillotine. And Mousah needs to be really, really careful of that. One of the key things to watch out for here. Kane Mousah and Georgi Karakhanyan. Mousah looking to throw that looping right hand. Question often of consistency with Kane Mousah and keeping going for the full 5 minutes. A couple of good hooks there from Karakhanyan.
Nice return by Mousah too. Both guys throwing heavy leather right off the beginning. that's the one thing you look at times where you're looking at a volume fight or something like that. Both Kane Mousah and Karakhanyan both possess one-punch knockout power.
Good right hand. He set it up well as well there. Kane Mousah closed the distance.
Beautifully set up by that jab.
Looks to the body as well, sensibly there, Mousah just mixing things up, and then that leg kick landed well.
You can see right now, look at how hard Georgi Karakhanyan is biting on some of the feints. That's telling you he's not real comfortable with what Kane's doing right now.
Switches there. Karakhanyan says he's comfortable doing that. We know that in his long career. Good jab again there from Mousah. Found his range early with that. Really good opening 90 seconds. Karakhanyan flinging that right uppercut. Missed with it though by some distance. And Mousah with a short right hook. He made Karakhanyan miss again there.
And right there, what Georgi needs to do, instead of coming in with that one big shot, set it up the same as we saw Mousah in the beginning. Use that jab, even if it's one time. Use that to set up. Make his hands get busy, and then bring the power.
Most underrated punch in boxing, and indeed in the world of MMA, that jab. Jab is king. Good right hand there from Karakhanyan. That stung Kane Mousah. That got his interest.
Again, both guys right now having a lot of energy, a lot of power going out there. But they need to both start getting into the point where they're starting to use combinations. And right now, Mousah's the one that's going more towards that. He's at least throwing ones and twos. Georgi's really throwing ones.
He's thinking well here, Mousah. Using those kicks and using that jab. Trying to mix things up. Big right hand there from Mousah. And then he throws that left. Iron chin, though, of Karakhanyan.
You talk about iron chin of Karakhanyan. At 145, I always thought that Georgi was losing too much weight. And you can see it would affect him. He wasn't able to take the same amount of damage at 155. No one's putting him away. He's much tougher. He's able to accept those shots and keep coming forward. That's what we're seeing right now.
3 knockout defeats, but looking strong here. Mousah with a right to the body.
Nice little check hook over the top by Mousah. Mousah's starting to get a little wide with his shots, though. Nice clean right hand.
Really sharp there from Mousah, but Karakhanyan looking to respond here. Left there from Mousah, but neither really so far making a dent in the other. You mentioned that one-punch power, but they're both super tough.
Exactly. And this is where I would tell you that Georgi has an advantage in this fight. If he can get the fight to the ground, he is a slick ground technician. He's much more comfortable on the ground. Kane Mousah is going to have to work much harder to stop what Georgi does. But right now did a great job of moving his hips out and keeping the fight right where he wanted it.
He did really well there, Kane Mousah. Good kick there from Karakhanyan. Blocked, I think, though, from Mousah. It was blindside of us, that. Thumping right to the body again from Mousah, just under the armpit there of Karakhanyan. Good hooks from Mousah there, potentially winning him this opening round. Landed the better shots, Mousah. It's been just what we hoped for, just what we expected here.
That was a beautiful dig to the body and a nice kick by Karakhanyan to end the round.
Explosive finish to the round from Karakhanyan.
Right there, Blue. Over there.
Be interesting to see what happens tactically going forward here. flowing a bit here as well. It was high energy stuff that. It was a really high pace.
One of the things, both guys were really putting a lot onto their shots. They were really loading up. They need to relax a little bit, just let things come. But big left hand right there by Mousah. Karakhanyan just walking through it, but it landed clean. And that's the kind of combination that I think in the end created the winning of the round by Mousah. It was close. Nice kick at the end by Karakhanyan. Both guys getting good shots in. We'll see who can take this next round.
Okay, Mousah said he was going to work to expose the chin, the striking, and the strength of Karakhanyan. He's landed on the chin a few times with power shots, but he hasn't exposed anything so far. Again, though, that jab right at the start of this second round. He looks confident here, Mousah.
Yeah, but that was a nice right hand by Karakhanyan that just landed. That got Mousah's attention.
Thanks for that punch again there, Karakhanyan. 6 of Mousah's last 8 fights have gone the distance. 4 of those have been splits. 1-2 and lost 2 of those, but so many fights going to splits does tell you something about a fighter.
One of the things that we were talking about in the first round, that Mousah was using combinations. He was throwing more than just 1, 2, 3s. Now he's going towards almost just the ones. That's not going to bode well for him against Georgie. He needs to get back to those combinations. That was a nice left hook, though.
Really well timed, wasn't it? Landed perfectly. Looks to throw it again. That buzz Karakhanyan.
No doubt.
And a right hand from Mousah, followed by the left hook. Just going through the gears a little bit here, Mousah. Footwork there from Karakhanyan, but those punches he landed would have given Mousah plenty of confidence. Little uppercut on the inside as well there. To the body now, still neither really able to put a dent in the other.
Karakhanyan had a little success with that teep to the body. He should go back with that anytime he's at range. That's a nice little jab to the body that's going to take the air away from Mousah.
Get off the shorts. Get off the shorts. Let's go. I told him, break. Let's go. Fight.
Both guys confused right there.
Certainly slowing up. There's that knee from Karakhanyan. That was a good idea.
You can take a look at those strike stats right now. 42 of 140 for 30%. Take a look at the accuracy compared with Mousah. 63 of less action in 122 and a much higher landing percentage.
This is where Mousah often likes to fight up against that cage.
Mousah just putting weight down, a little bit of a hip ride. Trying to land those strikes. Got a cut on Karakhanyan.
Yeah, there's blood to that left eye of Karakhanyan. Mousah riding that head into Karakhanyan as well. And landing a good right hand.
We talked about the combinations and not just going after the one. It was a 3-punch combination that led to that left hook.
Karakhanyan is in desperate trouble here.
Watch the back of the head.
Trying to get to the cage. How much does he have left? There's still over a minute left in this second round. Referee's having a good look at this.
That was a big shot landed by Mousah. He's obviously landed a lot since that time, but Karakhanyan's done a good job of just staying in the fight. A little bit of movement, not taking another big one.
Remarkable durability there. Survival instinct of Karakhanyan, but he's still not out of trouble here. Mousah just needs to keep his wits here. Karakhanyan does so well to get back to his feet. If he's still rocked, Mousah still has time, and that's a bad cut on the left eye as well. It's an overwhelming Kane Mousah round, this one.
Real question is, how much gas did Kane Mousah lose in trying to finish the fight? He's a little gassed right now.
Well, Karakhanyan's done remarkably well to survive there.
Stop, easier.
Great round for Kane Mousah. Beautiful combination to drop him down. Nice, beautiful shot to the body. Look at that left hook up high. That's what we're talking about. You're getting a guy, all of a sudden he's getting hit the body, his hands start to drop down. Here comes the left hook over the top. It drops him. Boom, that was a sweet left hook by Kane Mousah. And then he just was all over Georgi Karakhanyan. Georgi did an amazing job to survive. Look at how stiff his legs are there as he gets rocked. He was able to at least collect himself. A lot of ground and pound coming from Kane Mousah here. Georgi turning so he can try to slow that progression down, take away the posture of Kane Mousah. He survived the round, though.
They've had a job to do on that cut as well. It's a nasty one on the left eyelid there for Karakhanyan. How much gas did it take out of Mousah, though? Thing is, it will have taken plenty out of Karakhanyan, that's evident.
Great job, let's go.
How are you scoring this one at the moment? Round two was an easy one, John. What about that first?
Well, honestly, I go 10-9. I had Kane Mousah in the first, and I give him a 10-8 in that second because, look, he dominated Karakhanyan for a major part of that round.
Karakhanyan needs a massive third round here. Does he have it in him? We know all about the durability and the spirit of this man. This has gone excellently so far for Mousah.
This is smart fighting by Georgi Karakhanyan to try to get this fight to the ground. You saw Kane Mousah starting to talk to him a little bit. Don't get in that position where you're not thinking that Georgi Karakhanyan is not still dangerous.
He is definitely still dangerous. And he knows that, I wouldn't say the ground's his only way, but it's certainly his best way. Mousah at the moment defending this position.
He's trying to get his arms around that single leg. Nice job by Kane Mousah to stay on his feet with that.
Mousah uses his feet well and spins out of that position. Tied at 6th for most fights in Bellator. Georgi Karakhanyan, this fight number 21.
Great head position by Mousah.
Mousah, a training partner of Saul Rogers, so he knows all about beating Karakhanyan. He talked a lot about that in the build-up. Karakhanyan needs something special, something explosive. We know he's capable of it. There's that left hook again from Mousah. And a right hand left hook again. He stunned Karakhanyan again. Shown great movement here, Mousah, and real good shot selection too. The accuracy's been outstanding.
When you're doing that kind of work and you're landing, don't crush the space. Don't come into him. You're the one that's doing the damage. Step back, give yourself some space, and then come back at him again. Right now, when they separate, Kane Mousah is the dangerous fighter. He's the one that's doing damage against Karakhanyan.
There's a tiny reach advantage, Mousah, but at times it's felt like it's much wider than that, much bigger than that. He's used the distance so well. Again, Karakhanyan just goes for that single leg. It's the final 2 minutes now.
Switching, trying to hit that ankle, going back to the single leg. He's trying to run the pipe here. Unable to get the position he needs to be in. And a lot of that is the wrist control that we're seeing from Mousah.
Mousah's shown really good calmness under either the pressure of trying to finish or this kind of pressure. Been a good thinking fight from him. A minute now, and Karakhanyan really needs to make something happen.
Yeah, I really like what I saw there, because a lot of times I know Mousah would have gone to the elbow strikes to the head, but he would have ended up being taken down, and he stuck with what he needed to do to keep himself on his feet. That was a really nice sequence by Mousah.
Well, Mousah's worked an awful lot on his footwork and on that sort of sense of control, and I think you can really see it.
Karakhanyan grabbing the cage, holding that leg in place. Don't grab it, grabbing both sides. George's doing everything he can.
Yeah, the MTT guys who are right to our left. Don't blame him. Telling the referee about that. But their man is turning on the style here towards the end of the fight. Surely Mousah's night here. Good straight right hand there. Karakhanyan throwing, swinging wildly. Well, you'd feel, you're never sure, but you feel that Mousah's done more than enough there.
I believe that Mousah's done more than enough to get a win here. That was a very good fight by him. A lot of times we see making mistakes in the fight that end up putting him in bad positions. He was very smart, he was very calculated, and had a lot of power on those shots. I think that got him the win.
Of course, we'll find out shortly, but that feels like a big night, a big performance from Mousah. As I mentioned at the start, Karakhanyan requested that fight. He thought he could get the better of Mousah, but Mousah was always confident. Let's take a look at that third and final round, John.
Again, this is what I said. I kind of stunned Georgie again there a little bit. You saw Georgie planting his feet and throwing back. That's one of the things you'll see a fighter do when they get stunned. This is just part of their training. I'm just going to throw back. Georgie's showing how tough he is. But Mousah is the one that landed the big, heavier shots throughout this fight. Great battle between two tough guys.
And we'll find out very, very shortly if he's done enough.
Yeah, I've been to the trenches, the darkest times, and this is where it matters, where it comes to light. Yeah?
Mousah with a message. Karakhanyan surely knows. Fighters tend to know. Well, Michael C. Williams will be up there shortly with the verdict. Still waiting for him to get into his position in the cage here. Yeah, Michael's there behind the fighters. Well, the expected fireworks, we certainly had them in those opening couple of rounds as Mousah started to take over. Was it enough? Let's get now to Michael C. Williams with the verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, having gone the distance, we'll go now to your three judges at cage side. Ron McCarthy, David Peabody, Eric Colon, all have it exactly the same at 30-27 for the winner by unanimous decision, Kane, the Danger
emotion there on Kane Mousah's face. You can see just how much that meant to him. Unanimous decision, and one that you certainly couldn't argue with. Moves to 14-4. Well, Kane Mousah takes the plaudits of his team.
You should never doubt me, ever. You want to go to the trenches? Any of you want to go to the trenches? Let's go there, because that's where I live and survive. Rude boy.
Yeah, Kane Mousah is emotional and has plenty to say, and he'll have something to say to Big John now. Let's get up to Big John.
Not gonna lie.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm late getting up here to talk to this man, but he put on one hell of a fight. Kane, you came in here and you were trading blows. The big difference, you were throwing combinations and he was throwing ones.
Yeah, I knew, I knew Georgie's fix that. I knew this camp was all about speed, so I watched his fights. I knew it was all about speed. It's all about preparation, and we prepared perfectly. What we saying, people? Did we just lay it down or what? Yeah? Shout out to Drogheda and all my Irish bloodline. My nana will be proud. Yeah?
You, in the second round, you threw a beautiful combination to the body, a left hook to the head, and put him down. Did you think you had it finished?
Yeah, I pieced that one together nice, so then remember, you told me, these things stick in my mind. You said, Kane, you said, you've got the power. You just got to believe in it. And you know what? Tonight, I believed in myself.
Well, you fought a beautiful fight. Congratulations on a great win. Who should you be fighting next?
Yo, listen, put me in the rankings. Don't ever disrespect my name. Again, put me in the rankings. I want to fight anyone in the top 10. You already know. You just see what I did to Georgie. He's an elite fighter. He's got 31 wins. Now he's got 14 losses. He's got well more experience than me. And look, I stepped up. They put the fight in front of me. I said straight away, yeah, I'll take him. I'm a top 10 fighter. Put me in them rankings. Put some respect on my name.
I will definitely put respect on your name. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kane Mousah.
That is what this sport is all about. His redemption song continues. And boy, is he singing loud, and boy, did he enjoy being here. Irish blood in his veins, and that was a terrific display. Great aggression, consistency, picked his shots well, showed calmness in there too, under all kinds of pressure. But Mousah, absolutely dominant. Time for us to head to Aidan Power.
Thank you very much, Dave. You know, often when you see these fights on paper, you go, could be good, could be good. When we saw Bellator 285 prelims and main card on paper, we thought, there we say it, this could be the best card ever in Dublin. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but so far it is working out that way. Great performance from Kane Mousah. He was shouting out his Irish heritage. We can trace back to County Drogheda, to his grandmother. Well, another fighter who comes from Drogheda, and indeed County Louth. I should know whether there's a county or a town. I'm from Ireland, is Kieran Clark. He will open up our main card tonight. The SPG fighter is a real fan favourite, and he's taken on Rafael Utzon at a contracted weight of 150 pounds. And for Clark, the 27-year-old, he'll make the walk for the 6th time in his young professional career, and so far so perfect with 5 victories, 3 of those coming inside the distance. Tonight he faces Brazil's Rafael Utzon, who's a Muay Thai world champion. He's making his Bellator debut. He's also got 5 wins on his record. All of those have come by knockout and indeed submission. And he says despite the late call-up, he has been training for this fight, not for a week, not for 10 days, but indeed for all his life. This is his big opportunity, and he is here looking for the knockout. I'm going to bring in Big John McCarthy to talk more about Kieran Clark and his brilliant rise so far in Bellator. John, what is it that impresses you so far about Kieran Clark?
You know, there's so much that impresses me about Kieran Clark, and the thing that is, most people don't realize he had a huge amateur career where he had losses, and he learned from those losses, and since he's come into the professional ranks, he does not make the mistakes of a young fighter. He is absolutely dangerous on the ground, and if he gets you to the ground, take a look at that choke. It's a rear naked choke, but he never tries to lock it in the normal lock position. He always goes palm to palm because he knows he has the squeeze to put you unconscious. This kid's ground game is devastating. His stand-up is getting better and better, and he's using it now to get himself into positions to take that fight to the ground. This kid is going to be something special. Just look out.
Well, thanks to Aidan and John. Now the local fighter that's causing a great deal of buzz is Dara Kelly. He takes on Kai Stevens, who surely has his hands full against the man they call the Mobile Mauler.
And now ready to make his way to the cage, Kai Stevens.
Well, another Bellator debutant in our prelims here in the shape of Kai Stevens from Portsmouth on England's south coast, who describes himself as a workhorse with a dream, one that he's living just by being a fighter. 3 wins in 4 professional outings so far after a good amateur career, but he has his hands full tonight. One of the toughest assignations in any fighter tonight for Stevens.
Oh my God, he has got a tough one coming in here. It's, you know, it's the matter of he just needs to fight his fight. Don't try to come out here and impress anyone. Be smart, use your length, frustrate Dara Kelly as much as possible, and drag that fight into the other rounds. That's how you get your win.
And now we welcome to the cage, Dara, the Mobile Mauler Kelly.
All the way from County Donegal, the Mobile Mauler heads to the professional cage and the Bellator cage for a second time. And back in February, that first outing went just about as well as it could with that swarming submission win against a decent fighter as well in Junior Morgan. There's a lot of excitement around about this guy, John. All the talk seems to be about him, doesn't it?
You know, he's got the perfect nickname in the Mobile Mauler because he mauls his opponents. You watch him, and he's just all over him, and he's strong. He just grabs a hold of whatever he wants and then makes the submission happen. I've watched him do it with Kimuras. I've watched him do it with arm bars. Here he goes with the guillotine. Look at the pressure that he creates. Man, this guy is very, very strong, very explosive, and he doesn't believe anybody can beat him.
The tail of the tape as Dara Kelly and Kai Stevens get it on at lightweight. Kelly's already making noise right at the start of his pro career, John.
Right here, I got it, both 24 years of age. Both guys are so young in the sport. It's showing with a 1-0, 3-1 record. This is the future.
It is the future. The present is Michael C. Williams.
Welcome and a good evening to all those joining us tonight live on BBC iPlayer as we go now here at Bellator 285 to 3 5-minute rounds in the lightweight division. Introducing the blue corner at 6 foot, weighing in 155.2 pounds. His professional record: 3 wins, 1 loss. From Portsmouth, England, Kai Stevens. And across the cage, his adversary tonight fights out of the red corner at 6 foot, weighing in the same 155.2 pounds as a professional. He stands at 1-0 by way of Mobile. He fights out of Dublin, Ireland, presenting Dara, the Mobile Mauler Kelly. And the referee in charge, Kerry Hatley.
This is such an educated crowd. They know this sport. They know how special Dara Kelly is. Did you hear the roar for him? Goodness me. 1 pro fight under his belt, and he gets that kind of roar. Could you imagine if he fights for a title here? Here he comes. The Mobile Mauler up against Kid Yeti Kai Stevens.
So that's exactly what Kai Stevens did not need to have happen. You needed to use lateral movement to stay on that outside and move around. Don't let Kelly get you to the ground right away. This is exactly what Kelly likes. And again, starting to maul his opponent.
Well, his opponent and getting into a dangerous position already here. Kelly is not messing about here.
Nice job by Stevens to work his way back to his feet. But right there, that is it's so difficult in your mind once you work all that way back up and he takes you right back down.
Comes out like a runaway train. Dara Kelly. Good from Stevens, though. Desperately trying to hang on here.
You know, it's good work by Stevens. And you're seeing Dara Kelly right there when he's trying to do that big lift. You're burning a lot of energy for no reason. Slow it down. Grab the legs, pull them out. Step over just like he is to control those legs. Now that's a nice move by Dara Kelly. Stevens again working to get himself back to his feet.
Straight back up, straight back up. There we go.
Stevens said his greatest strength in the cage is his boxing, so he's not in the position he wants to be in at all.
Well, he's absolutely right. That's his, you know, greatest strength is his hands. But it's hard to use your hands when someone's on your back.
Kelly has that sense of not being denied about him, just a relentlessness about him. Just wants to bring that pressure and see if his opponent can live with him and see if he can cope.
It's so disheartening when you work so hard to get yourself back to your feet. You get there and the guy just returns you to the mat that fast. A lot of energy being put out by both guys. But Kai Stevens is working very hard to get himself back to his feet right now. As you see his leg trapped in that figure four by Kelly.
And Kelly's clever too, isn't he, with those sneaky shots, those little hooks.
Good. Let's work up now, Kai. There you go. Oh, let's work up. Work up, Kai. Work up. There we go.
Stevens, corner running at him, telling him to work up to get back to his feet. Is Kelly just going to take him down again?
Again, you talk about something that just takes all the steam and air out of you. It's disheartening when you work that hard to get up and all of a sudden he drags you right back down into the same position.
Looking to put that right arm under pressure there, Kelly.
And that's what happens when he goes for that underhook. He leaves his neck exposed. Dara Kelly jumps right on it.
Good Yeti, though, driving Kelly back.
Great job by Stevens.
Let's work now. Constantly hitting, guys. Resting.
I would suggest separate. Don't play his game. This is where Kelly wants to be. He can grapple all day long. Where he's not super comfortable is in the stand-up, and that's where he's going to expend more energy.
There was definitely a bit of machismo about that from Stevens, having got to his feet and tried himself to effect the takedown. The way that Kelly came out.
Beautiful job of Kelly. You notice how he bounced him off of the cage. That's just a guy that's been in there grappling in that cage, understands the things that he can do. Beautiful tie-up of the legs here with the figure four.
He would have hoped to have Stevens out of there by now. He came out looking for something early, looking to get this crowd going, but it's impressive from Stevens, and now he gets back to where he wants to be with 45 seconds of the opening round remaining. Can he do any damage now on the feet here, Kid Yeti? Right hand from him.
Well, this is what I was talking about. I thought that Kai Stevens needed to get this into the second and then third round. Get him tired, make him work hard in the stand-up. It's really Stevens that's worked hard off the ground, but he looks like he's not any worse for the wear. He's got a lot of energy.
He's so strong, Kelly. Close the gap again there. And right hand, no, that buzzed Kelly.
That did buzz him.
Caught him by the left ear.
Looking for the uppercut.
Short hook as well there from Stevens. That will give him a little bit of hope. He's not read the script, Kid Yeti.
Nothing changes. Back him up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Back him up. And hey, one of those times, let's take the back.
There's the calming words of John Kavanagh.
You're looking at the takedowns, and Darkelly did a great job of consistently returning Kai Stevens to the mat. Different types of takedowns. Here he drags him over. Good positioning. All of these just over and over, making Kai Stevens work super hard to get back to his feet. But when he did, take a look at the shot he lands right here, right off the top of the head right there, just above the ear. You can see off balance now, a little bit stunned. Not the finishing shot that he was needed, but he definitely got Darkelly's attention.
There you go.
And Kelly's talking to him, telling him that he didn't hurt him. That's normally a surefire sign that he did.
Here we go, round
exactly
two, man, ready. Let's go work.
One of the golden rules, that. Stevens' problem is he needs to keep it on the feet here, and of course, Kelly wants this on the floor.
And if Kai Stevens can get some separation, look, Darkelly gives him a lot of opportunities to land the strikes. His hands are, down low. He's looping his shot to get in on the takedown. So he just needs to work towards getting this separation, and then straight shots down the middle. They're going to get on target.
Good adjustment there from Kelly. Stevens, a training partner of Alex Bodnar. We've already seen lose to Kenny Mokhonoana in these prelims. Another Adams v. Kavanagh clash.
Well, there's a reason that Kai Stevens is 3-1. He can fight. And you're seeing it by everything that he's been stopping. But now this is not good with where he's at. The cage is going to give Darkelly some problems because he's got an arm triangle set up. Can't hold on to it.
That debut win against Junior Morgan, where he was so dominant, was by a guillotine.
Well, he's got a gift wrap. If you look at the right arm, he's gift wrapped the left arm of Kai Stevens. So it's a matter of now in mount, he's holding on to that arm. We'll see what he decides to go to.
Just for those elbows, but that's the try. Get a better position here. Once again, Stevens does a good job of wriggling out of that position.
Great job by Stevens, pushing on the hips, put both hands on the hips. He's given the opportunity for Darkelly to land shots, but he knows I've got to get out of this, puts both hands on the hips, pushes him off and away. Now he's in on the legs of Darkelly.
Does what he tried to do in that opening round, Stevens.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Time. Come here.
Well, that might be a little bit of luck there for Stevens.
I don't know if that's lucky for Stevens. Got a little bit of equipment failure on Darkelly's left hand.
Yeah, equipment failure is the phrase, all right.
Hey,
so
the glove's fine. I need tape.
Yeah, the problem with the tape.
Right there.
Frustrating, isn't it, for Kelly, and the crowd are frustrated as well. And there's got to be a quicker way than this of fixing it.
Sometimes there's just no way of doing something fast.
There's the scissors. There's a roll of tape somewhere as well.
Here's a red tape. Come here, right here.
Wow.
Stay right there.
Well, this is giving
finally got the tape.
And this is giving both guys a long break, but I honestly would have thought Kai Stevens was the guy that was pushing the pace a little bit. Darkelly had used a lot of energy. This is probably helping him more than it is Kai Stevens.
Finally they got the tape.
Keep it low. Keep it low.
They get the job done to make sure that there are no sharp edges on that.
Okay, come here.
One of the things about this sport, where does it go next?
Okay. Not locked. You were on this leg.
There's an argument about the position.
Well, he did not have his hands clasped, so he grabbed his hands, which is him trying to cheat, which I don't blame him, but you got to put him back with what he had.
So both fighters a little refreshed after that slightly surreal interlude. This time, has he got it?
He's in trouble. That Kai Stevens needs to continue to move. That Darce choke is on.
Queally looked to have that Darce choke tight. Stevens trying to extricate himself.
Nice job by Stevens. Brings himself out.
Now he can land shots here on Queally.
What's those?
Good job this from Kai Stevens. He's better than the workhorse he described himself as. 6-1 as an amateur. Clearly a great level of skill.
You know, he's getting high here. What you get the sweep by Queally. He's got that leg entwined. If you notice, he's moving that leg over. He's going to come up on top. Kai Stevens needs to push back. There you go. Try to push back with your arms. Get to it. We're in a spladle position. Just come up on top. Nice move by Queally. He's looking at a spladle, but that's not going to end up. If Stevens has any flexibility, it's not going to end up working. So just come up on top and get busy from there.
Stevens doing a good job there of defending that position. Queally not having it all his own way here. But you're right, that little break I think freshened up Queally. Stevens is looking a little tired here, a little beleaguered. Increasingly desperate maybe. Elbows from Queally, get a reaction from the crowd.
Well, not too many people saw this going into round 3. Stevens deserves great credit for that.
This is what I was talking about. This is the fight that I thought Kai Stevens needed to fight as far as dragging it into the later rounds to get that win. He's got a great gas tank, and he's good with his hands. He's much better, I've seen tonight, than I've ever seen him before on the ground. He's done a great job of nullifying everything that Queally has tried.
Well, Dublin fans, we know you love your MMA, and Bellator is going to be coming back to the 3 Arena on February the 24th. Tickets go on sale next week. Make your plans now. Come and enjoy the atmosphere here. I promise you it's not bad. It's a lot better than not bad. It's buzzing in here tonight, and it's only going to get louder and more passionate, and they want to cheer this fella on to a win. They wanted an early win for Queally, but Kid Yeti from Portsmouth, Kai Stevens, doing a good job here. Queally needs these kind of tough opponents if he's going to progress anyway. Still got to win the fight, though.
He started this fight off, if you recall, going after Stevens, mauling him, being all over him, but unable to finish any of the techniques that he was trying to apply. Stevens just hung tough this entire time, and now entering this 3rd round, it looks like he's the fresher fighter to me.
This is where Stevens wants it. Queally again shakes his head. Certainly been a test of the Queally gas tank. Stevens just not able to stay in that stand-up, create that distance for long enough.
So Stevens looking for that Kimura grip to try to peel Queally off of him. Can't control it. Queally working hard to get his hands clasped together on those legs. Once he gets it, Kai fight hits the ground.
Exactly where Kelly wants it again. Is the mobile mauler just going to grind his way to a points win here? They hope for fireworks on the ground. They hope to have a submission to cheer.
Kelly with a very tight leg lace, controlling the lower legs of Kai Stevens there. Every time Kai Stevens gets his legs free, he's able to get himself back to his feet. Not an easy thing to do with a lot of weight from Kelly being placed down on him. Stevens is looking towards a Kimura on the right arm of Kelly. Kelly's starting to turn that around on him. Look at where his arm's at, placed. Doesn't really have a grip on it, so he's going to be able to slide it out free. Goes back to the gift wrap on that right arm.
Kelly's dominated on the ground. He said that Stevens had a weak ground game, but he thought he was going to get him out of there quickly. Be a lot to learn from this fight, but Kelly's starting to unload now.
Kelly getting a little high. It needs to suck his hips back. Nice job of pulling the legs out.
Apart from that one shot that Stevens landed, all of the offensive weapons have been with Kelly. The good work Stevens has done has been defensive, but that defense just breached there.
Stevens trying to work himself, build a base, get back up, unable to do it, still mounted.
And every time it looks as if Kelly's going to take over, Stevens finds a way to survive. That's been the theme so far.
Nice job of shrimping out, moving those legs. Getting Kelly off of that mount.
To the final minute of the fight now. Both tiring here, but Kelly trying to find a second win.
This is what Kelly needs to do. He needs to posture out. Now you get the opening on the neck.
Has he got that choke? Has he got it deep enough?
He's in trouble right now.
It's been a great job from Stevens, and he manages it again.
Just kept sliding his back away from Kelly. He's able to just turn that position enough where we had just enough space where the choke's not working.
I heard that Dublin Roar build as the choke seemed to be in and seemed to be tight. Final seconds, Stevens survives.
Comfortable win for Kelly, but there's a lot to work on there, John. It's a great learning fight for him, and well, Kai Stevens, hats off. Round of applause for that defensive effort.
Yeah, absolutely. He went in there with, all the intention of winning this fight, dragging it into the later rounds, and just beating Kelly, but unable to stop the takedowns. That was the big difference. When you're looking at all of those takedowns, man, 11 takedowns overall in the fight.
Yeah, we'll wait for the decision here. It'll be comfortable for Kelly.
It's over, you won. Now, here you go. Down low. Replace the top. Next opponent's watching this. We're up strong. You're covered on. 5 more rounds. There you go.
We can get that decision now. Let's get to Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the decision, we go now to your 3 judges at cage side. Your first, Brian Miner, scores the fight 30-27. While judges Eric Colon and Kevin McDonald both see the fight the same, 30-26. All have it for the winner by unanimous decision, Dara, the Mobile Mauler Queally.
They love him here, and he got what he wanted in terms of a win, but maybe not performance. We can hear from him now. He's with John.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Dara Queally. Dara, that was a tough, grueling fight, but you were in complete control throughout most of it with your grappling. What was it like for you to get the minutes in this cage like that and go 3 rounds hard with someone that would not quit?
Yeah, like, I'm disappointed with myself. It's my first decision. I'll blame the antibiotics for the cardio. I'm sorry for that there. I want to come out in the next performance, and I'll put on a better show. Props to my opponent. He was tougher than I expected now. But look, it's 15 minutes in the bank for me. It's what I needed. Never went the distance before. And you know what? I had a lot of lessons learned, and I still got the W. So I'll be back better than ever. That's a learning curve for me.
I agree. I think that is the type of fight you as a young fighter need, because those minutes are important and you learn a lot from what was going on in here and you fix the little mistakes. Who is it that you would like to face in this cage next, though?
I would like another tough test like that. I don't have no names. I should have a name, but after that, I'm very disappointed in myself, and I'll be back better than ever, whoever it is, and I'll fix the issues, and I'll be back to my finishing ways next.
Well, you have nothing to be disappointed in. You put on a great performance. Congratulations on an outstanding win. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Mobile Mauler, Dara Queally.
He gets the win, and that ultimately is what matters. Time now to move from the Mobile Mauler to the darling of Dublin. It's Aidan Power.
You are a man of few but good words, I should say, my friend Dave Farah. Thank you very much. We are bubbling in Dublin, and we're going to talk about the second fight in our main card this evening and look at our stacked featherweight division, because the landscape at the top could look very different in 7 days' time, and it starts tonight with Mads Burnell and Pedro Carvalho. Both Burnell, who's ranked at number 3, and Carvalho, who's ranked at number 5, are looking to bounce back from recent defeats. So it is the get back, and also a huge opportunity to advance to title contention. Denmark's Mads Burnell was on a 7-fight win streak. That included victories over Emmanuel Sanchez and Saul Rogers, and with 9 of his 16 wins coming by submission, the BJJ black belt firmly believes he holds all the aces tonight against Pedro. He says, my hands, my grappling pressure will be nothing like he's ever felt before. I am going to make him question his manhood. Well, we know Pedro Carvalho has been tested in that regard, and indeed in that department before. He has wins over Derek Campos and Sam Sicilia, and of course a signature win inside this cage, inside this arena against Daniel Weichel. And coming into this one, Pedro is as confident as he was before that Daniel Weichel fight. And when we ask him why, he said it's because not just physical improvements he's made in camp, but mental ones too. He is so confident that he will win tonight. He's going to put on a fight of the night performance. And if that's not confidence, I don't know what you call it. We are really looking forward to it. Our main card kicks off live in noisy Dublin at 4 o'clock Eastern on Showtime. Now, the prelims continue. Dave.
Thanks very much indeed, Aidan, and that noise is starting to build. You can sense it here. I'm sure you can hear it at home. Now, Jordan Winsky and Brett Johns become the centre of attention now at bantamweight. Both look to build on good wins last time out.
And now set to make his way to the cage, Jordan, I'm gonna Winsky.
Well, Jordan Winsky, who goes, it must be said, by the pressure-building nickname of I'm Gonna Winsky, lost on his Bellator debut against Brian Moore, but then at Bellator 279 in Hawaii as a late replacement, he grabbed a victory by unanimous decision against Ryan De La Cruz. And once again here in Dublin, he comes in at relatively short notice to try and upset the bantamweight applicant. He says he likes being a late notice opponent. Well, he's getting his wish, John.
He is getting his wish. I don't know if I'd like it, but he's done well, and he's a well-rounded fighter. He likes to stand up, good on the ground, and he just keeps coming after his opponent. A very durable fighter, a guy that never stops looking for that win. He never believes that there's a moment that he can't end up with the finish, and that makes him a guy that's very tough to be in this cage with.
And now making his way,
So this grinding wrestler, Brett Johns, was supposed to provide a stern test for James Gallagher here. Or was it the other way around? But with that fight put to one side for now, he's up against this late replacement. He mustn't make any mistakes. He looks to build on that really good win last time against Kershev Kakarov, having lost on Bellator debut. That was some way to respond. And he's a fighter that many people see as making a really, really big noise going forward. I've heard him described in a lot of places as a real fighter's fighter, John.
He is a fight, exactly what we talk about. It's a guy, man. Brett Johns is a guy who will not back down. His grappling is outstanding. He's not the guy that is overly, exciting as far as does the spinning attacks or anything like that. But if you want to talk about effectiveness, and that's what wins MMA matches, Brett Johns is effective. Look at him get the position, three-quarter mount, then he takes full mount, back mount, just pushes the legs out, little shots here, but eventually he starts doing bigger ones. And man, he is, when he gets into position on top of you, you can't get him off. He's like Velcro. That's what makes Brett Johns so difficult in the cage.
The tale of the tape between the bantamweights, Brett Johns and Jordan Winsky. And John, you picked out that difference in height.
Well, there's not a big difference in reach. It's the same reach, but the difference in height, that 5'7" to 5'9", Jordan Winsky wants to keep this fight at range. He doesn't want to be in a grappling exchange for most of the fight with Brett Johns, so use that height and keep him away.
Is he going to Winsky? Is he going to Lewski? Let's get to Michael C. Williams.
And now tonight here in Dublin, the prelims roll on here at Bellator 285 as we go now to 3 5-minute rounds in the bantamweight division. Introducing first the blue corner at 5'9", weighing in 135 pounds even. His professional record, 12 wins, 3 defeats. From Murfreesboro, Tennessee, USA, Jordan "I'm Gonna Winsky." And across the cage, his adversary, fighting out of the red corner at 5'7", weighing in 135.7 pounds. As a professional, 18 victories, 3 losses from Swansea, Wales, presenting Brett Johns. And the referee in charge, Kevin McDonald.
Brett Johns is fired up here and ready, I think, to make a statement. There's two great characters, these two, when you talk to them, when you hear them talk. Now they go head to head.
Ready to fight? Ready to
Winsky
fight?
says he's mean and he's going to break Johns, and John says good luck with that.
Brett Johns.
Sorry, John.
No problem. His debut fight against Danny Sabatello tells you you're not going to break Brett Johns. Danny Sabatello come in, out-wrestle him, put on a great performance. In no way was there ever a moment you thought Brett Johns was broken in that fight. That's just not part of who he is.
Good sharp right hand there from Brett Johns, who looks for that takedown. Didn't really earn the right, though.
Nice dirty boxing by Jordan Winsky, pushing him to the cage here.
One thing Winsky did say about Brett Johns is he said, I've watched him a lot, and he does the same thing in every fight. He does it very well, but I know what to expect.
It's not the man that knows the 10,000 kicks. It's the man that's practiced one kick 10,000 times you got to worry about.
You've got to do a book on the philosophy of MMA at some point, I'm telling you. It'd sell well.
Winsky doing a really good job right here. Displaying his legs, keeping. Look at how he's keeping the arm of Johns up just by the trapping of it right there. That's making it to where Johns having a hard time dropping levels into his legs. We'll see if he can continue this position. Brett Johns driving forward, just inching his arms and his hands closer together, looking for that takedown. Nice job of movement. When you see that movement, you see Winsky's legs come together. That's what allows Johns to get his hands together.
Exactly where Johns wants to be now. Already moved up the levels once after winning his first 15 and then just finding that next level a bit too good, but now he's starting to build here with Bellator. He said he wants to send a message, Johns, to one specific individual, and then he wants to be part of the Jimmy show.
Well, he was supposed to be fighting James Gallagher here tonight. James got an injury, had to pull out of the match. Hopefully someday in the future we're going to see that.
In fact, Brett went even further and said he wants the Jimmy show in Wales. Good luck with that.
Nice elbows. Solid strikes by Brett Johns, and these just add up. This is what is effective ground and pound. He's landing good, clean shots. Nothing that is devastating right now, but they just tend to build up and start to deplete the energy and resources of the fighter that's on the bottom.
He's got so much confidence as well in his cardio, Brett Johns. Never feels that tank is going to empty. Gives him great confidence. Allows him to affect this sort of grinding style and break down his opponent bit by bit.
Winsky looking to turn that, change the angle on it, look for the arm bar, nothing there.
Just making sure that he's doing enough work here just to keep the judge's attention.
Well, we talk about progression. He just switched from full guard to half guard. So he's improving his position. He's doing damage. He's being effective. This is all types of different forms of fighting in MMA, and you've got to respect each and every form there is.
Johns is really effective, and it does have a cumulative effect as well. You can see he's already swelling under that left eye of Jordan Winsky.
Now take a look at the face around the eyes of Jordan Winsky, and you can see that the swelling is starting. He's taken quite a few shots.
Sneaky effective fighters like Brett Johns. They don't seem to be that active, but they start to bust you up pretty quickly. And here he goes, Johns. The moment he's doing a job here on Jordan Winsky.
Stop! Clean break.
Winsky being told there to take big, deep breaths, and I'm not surprised. Bit unsteady there as he headed out of round one.
In his corner is smiling Sam Alvey. The guy's had a great fight career. Outstanding person, just a wonderful human being. Always brought his wife to every fight and had her in his corner for every fight. He's the consummate family man.
He needs words of inspiration here, though, John.
If he's passing, let him pass. I don't care if he's in mountain in the cage. We will wall walk the best. With that jab across his neck.
Looks unruffled. Looks like it's the start of round one. Brett Jones bouncing up and down.
Well, it is as far as damage for him because he didn't get hit with much.
Round two.
So we start of round two. Brett Jones, the Welshman, big fan of Swansea City Football Club. That's soccer to you. And the Welsh national team who qualified for the World Cup for the first time in 64 years. Very proud nation at the moment. An MMA fighter to be proud of here. Jab from Winsky and right hand from Winsky to back it up, and another short right hand. Now that did get Brett Jones' attention.
Yeah, two solid right hands by Jordan Winsky.
Winsky does have that height advantage and that range as well. Jones, though, getting into range and throwing himself.
Got his hands clasped together. Nice job by Winsky trying to fight that off, but when he gets under that hip area and able to get underneath onto the legs, it's very difficult to stop because they can elevate where your toes are not touching the ground. There's no friction, and all of a sudden you're hitting the ground.
And now once again, John, that grinding starts. John's getting into that position and doing really good work again.
Well, we heard in the corner from Sam Alvey, he was talking to his fighter saying, look, I don't care if he passes. You've got to get back to your feet. And so we're going to see if Jordan Winsky takes that advice from his corner and gives position here in trying to get himself back up. Right now, Brett Jones is going to be passing. It's a beautiful knee slice. Going to be going right to the mount.
And we're about to find out.
Winsky doing a good job of using the cage at that point. He turned himself to the cage so he could push off of it. That kept Brett Jones from being able to stay in mount.
Jones making sure, though, he landed those hammer fists and sharp elbow as well. Pounding away here at Winsky, making really good use of that position. I know it's something you often talk about, John, just in terms of winning rounds. Make sure you keep working. Jones is really good at that.
Making it very easy for the judges right now. If you're Brett Jones, you're keeping a guy on his back. You're the one that's landing all the shots, and you're keeping his offense basically to zero. Not hard for a judge to figure out who's winning.
To convert it like he did against Kakarov.
Nice pass.
To a stoppage win.
Good pass by Brett Jones. Right into half guard now.
Jones would like to get this closer to the center of the cage. He's happy to do his work here. Started competing in motorsport, Brett Jones, trying to have an amateur career in rallycross and rallying, and the foot's going down on the gas here towards the end of round number 2.
Becoming more difficult for Jordan Winsky to be able to control the posture of Brett Jones, and that's why you're seeing him being able to open up with heavier shots.
So Winsky said Johns does the same thing in every fight, but right now it's working. It's one thing knowing, it's another thing being able to do something about it.
Absolutely. When you're good at what you do and you can force it on your opponent, that's why you have a record of 18-3 like Brett Johns.
Stop. Clean break, guys.
Richard Shaw there with Brett Johns, at back now with Sam Alvey.
Right? Pressure, pressure, pressure. Nothing silly. Put him on his back, just like the jaws. Nice little win bonus. Nothing sloppy. Calm down. Nothing sloppy.
Seconds out.
You heard the message as clearly as we did. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
I think that's what he's been doing.
It wasn't news to him, yeah,
No.
you're right.
Third and final.
The third and final round here. Brett Johns in that southpaw stance against Jordan Winsky, based now in Murfreesboro in Tennessee. I'd say late replacement as well. We need to put that into context. It's not like Rafael Lutsen in the main card. He's had a while to prepare for this Winsky.
And this is what that added height does if you're Winsky, is it makes it more difficult for someone to drag you to ground in that position, but eventually Brett Johns gets it there.
And more of the same from Brett Johns. Is it this kind of moment against Kakarov where Johns just became too much?
Yes, it is, and this is what that ground and pound does. It's not going to stop a lot of guys in that first or second round, but it just ends up depleting them of energy. They get beat down. Their durability starts to give way, and it becomes just overwhelming for them. And so Brett Johns, he's doing exactly what he does, and he's doing it well. And you got to be very impressed with how effective he is with his grappling and his ground and pound striking. Does a nice job. Look at that. Switches from punch to elbow, back to punch.
So move that position so he can land more effectively here, Johns. Just wonder if he's starting to sense that Winsky might be weakening.
Past the leg very nicely. Looked like he was going to go Kesekatami. Decided, you know what, I'm going straight back. Now he's just in that position, head on head, but he's in a very good position to deliver heavy strikes now. Winsky working himself up to his feet.
Nothing at the moment that Winsky can do here about the pressure of Brett Johns. And this is where it saps the energy of Winsky. Brett Johns always mentions when he talks to us that he's got a dog called Giuseppe Giovanni. And whenever I say it, I always think of the dog sitting in front of the television at home, cheering him on. Maybe now he's getting excited.
Great job of controlling that ankle, pulling the leg away. Brett Johns is just in complete control of this fight.
This is where he started to grind Kakarov down with shots like this.
Beautiful pass in the side. Almost has his back if he wants to put the hook ins now. There you go. Now he's in that same position he went with. Kind of offense you're talking about.
Winsky just managed to extricate himself, but he's not been able to do any damage here to Brett Johns. Winsky trying to escape. There's just no way out for him.
Nice slashing elbow by Brett Johns. Goes back to the hammer fist punch. Just doing whatever he wants.
Doing whatever he wants and doing his job very, very effectively.
It is, and this is where, again, you're going to get a lot of people, I don't like to see that. That's not the kind of fight I want to see. This is effective fighting. This is MMA. It's one of the elements of MMA. A lot of people want to see those spinning attacks and those big knockouts. I understand that, but this is just as effective.
What do we say at the start? He's a fighter's fighter. And this has been that kind of performance that other fighters will really admire. He hasn't got him out of there, but he's done more than enough, Brett Johns. Straight away he's in Winsky's ear. We'll wait and see by how much he gets it. Not an if he gets it, though. Yeah, they're happy with him. Of course they are. Pat on the back for Brett Johns. Nothing really that Winsky could do. And there's that Welsh dragon. Be interesting to see what is next for Brett Johns, because I've always said he is going to take some beating in this kind of form. Well, Michael is making his way into position here. All smiles in there. Let's get up now to Michael.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the decision, we go now to your three judges at cage side. Your first, Ben Cartledge, scores the fight 30-27, while judges Eric Colon and Brian Miner both see it the same, 30-26, all for the winner by unanimous decision, Brett Johns.
The pride of Swansea does it and moves to 19-3. Hats off to Brett Johns. Let's take a look now, though, at our co-main event tonight. The light heavyweights, John. It's hard to exaggerate how much people are looking forward to this. Yoel Romero and Melvin Manhoef. The numbers get people excited. We're going to take a look at some highlights of both of them as well in a moment. But 29 knockouts for Melvin Manhoef, 12 from Yoel Romero. Doesn't really tell the story of just how good they both are, but they're both so explosive and have that serious knockout power.
Oh my God, both of them, when they decide to throw, it's just an explosive moment. You look at Yoel Romero, he's made out of something different than all the rest of us. So strong, so explosive, even at his age, he's not slowing down at all, and his power is just immense. Here finishing off Alex Polizzi. This guy is remarkable. And then you take a look at his opponent. Look at that left hook by Melvin Manhoef. Every time I've watched Melvin Manhoef fight, and I used to go to Japan to watch him at times, this guy goes to finish fights. Yes, he has 15 losses, but in those 15 losses, and I will tell you it's true, he was only losing one of those fights. He was beating up his opponents in every fight. This guy is explosive. 29 knockouts out of 32 wins.
Yeah, only Mousah truly, he said it to us.
Yep.
Dominated him. Well, we head now for the bantamweights. Adjoudj Lima da Silva, the self-styled Camisa Pitbull, goes up against a huge local favorite in the shape of Brian Moore. These Dublin fans build and build this atmosphere.
And now to make his way to the cage, Adjoudj Camisa Pitbull.
So Adjoudj Camisa Pitbull played up to his nickname at yesterday's weigh-in by chewing on a bone. And he's going to need plenty of dog in him here against a durable, experienced and gifted opponent. He will bring fire, though, and this former punk band drummer brings a good deal of personality, too. What can he bring, though, I wonder, to trouble Brian Moore? 5-fight win streak makes him interesting.
Look, he comes out to fight. That's the one thing when you're looking at Lima da Silva. He is a guy that will stand and bang with anyone, and he's going to get that opponent in Brian Moore. I think it's smart if he tries to take Brian Moore to the ground. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to sling leather with him, and we're going to see who's going to come out on top.
And now, making his way to the cage, the Pipe Man, Brian Moore.
I heard a young girl call.
They love him here. And they welcome him in.
Michael Bay.
Doesn't have much time left for leaving things to chance, as he did against Jonel Lugo. Really high-level opponent, of course, but he was disappointed with that decision, but he didn't quite do enough. So tonight he'll be looking for something more definitive, a dominant win, a devastating stoppage. The Pike Man, it feels, is a man on a mission here.
Brian Moore is a very good fighter. I call him my Irish Canelo, and the reason is he goes to the body so well. 69-inch reach to a 66-inch reach. That gives Brian Moore exactly what he likes, a reach advantage, and he doesn't get it very often.
So that's the tale of the tape between the bantamweights Brian Moore and Adjoudj Lima da Silva. And here's Michael C. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight here at 3 Arena in Dublin, the prelims go now to 3 5-minute rounds in the bantamweight division. Introducing the blue corner at 5'6", weighing in 135.9 pounds. His professional record: 19 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws. From Araucaria, Bahia, Brazil, presenting Adjoudj Camisa Pitbull. And across the cage, his adversary fighting out of the red corner at 5'8", weighing in 135.7 pounds. As a professional, 14 victories, 9 defeats. From County Wexford, Ireland, introducing Brian the Pipe Man Moore. In charge, your referee, Kevin McDonald.
There's a real transformation in Brian Moore, who's spoken so honestly about his mental health struggles. He's felt this week like a different man entirely. It's been great to see him in that kind of form. Spoke about the nightmare he had in Russia fighting Nikita Mikhailov. He described it as trying to survive more than thrive. Well, tonight he's going to try and thrive, and this could be explosive. These two both like to let their hands go.
Yeah, I would tell you right now,
Back up.
that is not the way to start.
Over there, foot. Right over there. Hey. Just walk over here on your own time, away from your corner, okay?
Here it is, John.
A little bit off target here, brings it up right into the middle. Not a whole lot of movement by Brian Moore that made that happen, so.
Khanisa Pitbull making his mark early. Moore rightly given as much time as he wants, well, within reason to recover. And we can kind of reset and start again here. Close that gap, Khanisa Pitbull.
Pitbull looking to get into a grappling exchange. That's why he's swinging the way he is. Very square right now.
To fight smart here. I think that's been the message for him, and the message coming from him as well. And 11 submission wins, Khanisa Pitbull.
Over half of his wins come by submission. Very strong, good body positioning on the ground when if he gets it there. Brian Moore's been in these positions before. He understands the grappling well. He's not a guy that relies on the grappling, more defensive in his grappling maneuvers. And if you want to talk about a guy that utilizes a jab beautifully during the fight, Brian Moore is your guy.
Yeah, those 11 submission wins bear closer inspection, by the way, from Khanisa Pitbull. 10 of them by guillotine.
I mean, there's preferring a way of winning, and there's that.
Right there, Brian Moore thought when he caught that knee coming up, he had the leg. He could have elevated De Lima up and over. He decided, no, I don't want this on the ground. I want the stand-up. Nice lower leg kick by Brian Moore. And beautiful movement. Look and see, notice how he's circling out and away. There's no way for Lima to chase him down in that type of situation. So that's going to keep him safe. Very smart tactic.
Those hands nice and loose. Carries that left hand low, Brian Moore.
De Lima's taking a lot of chances here in the stand-up. His hands are coming down. Facing a guy like Moore, he's to be very cautious of where he puts his hands.
There was sort of a range-finding left hook there from Moore. He stretched a bit more with that one. He's having a look at that punch, Brian Moore. There's another. Those good calf kicks, they will pay dividends eventually. Mixing it up well here, Brian Moore.
Very nice. There, instead of circling, he ended up going straight back and get himself up against the cage. He needs to be very cognizant of when I move, if I take the step back and then I take the next step out to the side.
Spearing out that jab again, Brian Moore, and again there's that good movement. Got a good plan here, trying to execute it.
Brian does a beautiful job of utilizing that jab and throw a right cross and then a left hook to the body that is just simply poetry in motion. I love when he does it.
That was a left hook to the head.
Right now, Brian Moore's got Silva. He's starting to guess, which means he's having problems with what Brian's doing.
Look for that uppercut. He didn't miss by much, you know.
Nope.
Feels like Moore's trying to set Adjoudj Lima da Silva up here. Those kicks just keep his opponent off balance. The body, though, from Khanisa Pitbull.
Nice straight right hand down the middle.
Is he going to make Khanisa Pitbull buy one of these feints and then follow up with something powerful? It kind of feels that way.
That's what he's looking for. See it right there. That's beautiful stand-up fighting. You see him land the right hand, take a step back, measure range. You see Lima trying to land the counter, and it's just out of range based upon that footwork. Beautiful down.
Great body shot, followed up by the straight right hand. Just before that, he threw a jab to the body as well there, Moore, and that's an intelligent shot to use at this point. Good opening red, good high kick there from Moore.
Stop. Clean break.
Well, they'll be happy with Brian Moore here.
A few more pads if he's in auto. If he goes southpaw, you get the 3-2 or that lead uppercut and then the backhand, yeah? Okay. Everything else is beautiful. What's he throwing mainly?
Sometimes you only have to look at the fighters' faces, get an idea how the round went.
Then we can did lead uppercut backhand.
You take a look at just the interaction with the coaches and the look in the eyes. It will tell you a lot of what happened in that last round.
He's coming forward. Right hand. There every day.
So round two.
Watch that.
The local favorite, Brian Moore, against Adjoudj Lima da Silva. If you're wondering about the name, he said he wants to be known as Carniça Pitbull. Just feel the need occasionally to remind you, because what he's officially called on the fight card is Lima da Silva. Moore in control, but his opponent's still very, very dangerous. He's born in Salvador, in Bahia, but he's living in Parana, down in the south of Brazil.
Very nice job by Brian Moore. Stonewalled that, which was actually a really good change of levels by da Silva.
Fights in Ireland, AJ McKee and Jonel Lugo. He wants some happy memories at this 3 Arena Brian Moore. Again, you just sense that desperation. It doesn't mean it won't work. Well, for the Brazilian, he's still dangerous.
No, he's dangerous when he's slinging those shots, but they're coming very wide. They're taking a long time to get on target, and Brian's able to see them and move out of the way before they get there.
Some of Brian Moore's striking. You talked about it, poetry in motion. It
very sharp,
short left hand there. That was just a brilliant shot.
Very, very sharp, very clean and crisp. He doesn't throw a lot of looping shots. Everything's tight. Nice hips.
Here's the takedown defense from Brian Moore. Moore's done well here.
And that was very nice by Brian Moore. You saw da Silva starting to get that underhook. That's going to help get him up. You see Moore reacting to it, putting pressure on him. He's the one deciding, okay, I'm going to get up and away. He brings da Silva back to his feet. And that's blocked only with one hand. So, yeah, it was blocked, but he's still feeling that.
He's blowing a bit here, you know, Carniça Pitbull. Starting to really tire those legs. We're getting a little bit heavy from the successful kicks as well.
So are those arms.
Moore's quicker on his feet anyway, but he's slowed up his opponent here. Still needs to be careful, though.
There's that nice shot right to the body with the straight right hand. A lot of power on it.
He nearly walked him onto a straight right hand there to the head. Just didn't quite time it right. Carnisa Pitbull, blunt to the nose now of the increasingly battered and beleaguered Brazilian. Still got just over a minute to go in round 2. Another right hand, that lovely straight right, beautiful balance.
And that first one landed with a lot of power because De Silva was coming forward quickly on that. Moore landed a beautiful shot.
Silva there was just trying to time Moore's uppercut with a right hook of his own.
Take a look at those strike stats right now. 44% connection rate, 48 of 110 by Brian Moore, 33 of 86 for Lima De Silva, but the heavy shots have all been landed by Brian Moore.
In the final 20 seconds of round number 2 here. So far, Moore has just looked better everywhere.
Stop! Clean break.
If you feel you're a little bit long, then we can go lead hook and then right high kick. If you feel he's a little bit long. The only thing I'd say is sometimes when we're getting in there, give me a roll with good hand positioning. He's only firing back with wild hooks. So if you feel you're going forward with your hand.
Take a look at some of this action here. This is the shot where you saw Silva lunging in. Brian Moore catches him with that right hook. Just lights him up with it and then straight down the middle. You see his head popping back. Brian Moore was on target, landing at a higher percentage rate again in that round.
So we head into our third and final round. They're getting their money's worth here tonight in terms of action.
They're getting their money's worth.
Behind the line for me, please. Thank you. Third and final, gents.
I'm duty bound to ask you any argument at all about how you would be scoring this. Quite clear.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's been given the rounds right now to Lima De Silva. Oh, look, he's been fighting hard. He's in there and he's trying. He's just being out technique by a guy who in the stand-up moves his feet well, gives good feints, nice head movement. He's got good power in his hands, so he's diminishing him with every shot.
And he stayed busy as well here, Moore.
So De Silva's starting to get a little bit desperate. You notice how he's moving a little bit faster forward. There's two ways of looking at it. I can try to defend and I'm just not going to win this fight, or I'm going to go after him. And he's put in his head, I'm going to go after him.
You give him credit for that. He's going after him again, looking for that takedown. It just wasn't there. There's that right to the body again from Moore.
That thing has been money for him during this fight, and that takes a lot of energy out of his opponent.
Looking for that knee. And you know, Carnisa Pitbull deserves great credit for the spirit here.
Yeah.
As you say, but not just lying down and accepting defeat. To the body of his own there.
It's just a true statement when you look at a lot of fighters knowing I've lost both of the first rounds and it's just getting worse for me. I'm just going to try to make it through the fight. So the win is, oh, I made it to a decision. He's not doing that. He's going after him. He's trying to, he wants to end this fight.
Great to see Brian Moore looking so good here after what he went through. And those very public statements, not just in the cage, but all around it.
Great work by Brian Moore. You saw that De Silva had gotten his hands clasped, You saw Brian Moore turn and actually give part of his back to him and then spin through, changing the position. Great work.
Just one of those nights so far anyway where he's done pretty much everything right. Brian Moore dealt well with anything that Carnisa Pitbull has thrown at him, and he's done a lot of damage of his own. And I know people come and they want those fireworks and they want the big dramatic knockouts, the highlight reel stuff, but if you're a fan of striking, Moore's been just lovely to watch. Poetry in motion, as John described it.
Oh, get up, stand.
See, a lot of people are going to question, right, why is the referee getting him up? That is Brian Moore is in control of that position. When he backs off of his opponent, that's telling the referee, I want him up to his feet. He's the one in control of it. He's the one that gets to decide.
Now that cut to the, I think it's the bridge of the nose of Carnisa Pitbull. Moore is leaving nothing at all to question here, and Carnisa Pitbull needs a sort of Hail Mary moment here. There is just a little cut to the right of Brian Moore's nose there, suggesting that something has landed, but it's nothing that feels like it's troubled him at all as we head into the final minute of the fight.
See, a lot of people will go, well, De Silva was aggressive. You know, why did we move aggression in the judging criteria down? It's because of this. He is the person coming forward, but he's not the effective aggressor. Brian Moore is the guy that is the best as far as controlling the aggression in the fight. He decides when the engagements that are effective are going to happen. That's nice right hand again.
And aggression means you've got to land as well, right?
Yes, that's exactly it. Effective aggression, not just coming forward.
He's been looking for that all night. He's got a good chin, Carnisa Pitbull. He took that well. He's taken a couple of good shots well. But Moore has been completely dominant here. It's been a really good display on the feet of effective striking, effective aggression. And Brian Moore and John Kavanagh with a big smile on their faces. Well, we will make it official, but rather like a few of the fights tonight, I don't think there's going to be any doubt about that. Brian Moore knows how good he was, knows how big the distance was between them. No shame at all from very tough opponent Carnisa Pitbull. This feels like Brian Moore's back.
Who got it worse, him or Dave?
35 years of age now, but stay busy, and he can still shoot for the stars, Brian Moore. What a night it's been for John Kavanagh. Prospects coming through and winning. Established fighter like Brian Moore producing a really good display. All smiles, Brian Moore. So Michael C. Williams is in position here, and we can get up to him now for the decision that just has a whiff of inevitability about it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the judges' scorecards. All three, Brian Miner, Ron McCarthy, Eric Colon, see it the same, 30-27 for the winner by unanimous decision, Brian the Biteman Moore.
Brian Moore, it's great to see you smiling and winning, and we can hear from him now with Big John.
Oh, man.
Go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Brian, the Pike Man Moore. Brian, that was an outstanding performance.
John, I got one thing to say. Hey, baby, let the free birds fly. Love. Shake faith.
You used great footwork and beautiful combinations to control that fight no matter where it was going. He kept trying to take you down. You knew he was trying to do that. You kept, if it went to the ground, you kept getting him back up. What was your entire thought process during this fight?
Well, John, I thought I won the last one, but I had to be more clinical in this one. I took your advice. I need to use more than just my hands. You seen teeps and beautiful head kicks today. You seen beautiful wrestling defense. I just beat the shit out of a veteran 30-27, and I done it in front of the greatest fucking crowd on earth. Whoa! Come on! I will give you that finish next time, I promise.
Brian, you've always fought the toughest guys in here. You don't back away from anybody.
Yeah.
At 135 pounds,
yeah.
Who should you be fighting next?
Do you know what, Bellator? You've ever given me a taste for beating up these Brazilian bantamweights, so Leandro Higo, let's do it.
Oh, that sounds like a good one to me. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Pike Man, Brian Moore.
You'd watch it, wouldn't you? You'd definitely watch it. So he calls out Higo, Brian Moore, and he's full of that performance. All smiles from that SBG Island team. What a night for them so far. Well, let's tell you about our main card. Here are the light heavyweights. Carl Albrechtsson and Carl Moore will kick off our main card here at Bellator 285. That one could be explosive. Albrechtsson often overlooked. Moore very, very good and back after a long layoff. The best of that main card now. Let's take a look at the rest of it. Kieran Clark, Rafael Udson kick us off. Mads Burnell and Pedro Carvalho, of course, will have this crowd behind him. Leah McCourt, ditto for her, will take on Diana Silva. It's Yoel and Melvin. We've talked about them. And Benson Henderson, Peter Queally is our main event from Bellator 285. The action will just keep on coming tonight. So much to enjoy on that main card. Plenty too from the prelims. But now we focus on those big six.
Bellator brings the brawlers to the raucous atmosphere at Dublin's 3 Arena. Benson Henderson steps into enemy territory against hometown hero Peter Queally. Plus, light heavyweight Yoel Romero is on a mission of destruction. But Melvin Manhoff wants to go out on top in the final fight of his storied career.
What a finish!
Bellator MMA, today, live from...
I grew up eating carne asada at other friends' homes. When I was younger, we didn't have a lot of food at home. And so I used to go ask my friends if I can go eat dinner at their house. And today it ain't like that. Today I'm able to provide for my family, and I don't gotta live that way, and they don't gotta live that way. And we all get together, and I get to watch them smile and laugh and run around the park. I learned to cook from my best friend, Carlos. I learned how to cook from him. So every time that we come to barbecue, I make sure that I invite him, and he's more than a friend, he's family.
Michael Chandler trying to lock in.
Michael Chandler has this. On a normal opponent, that would have worked.
Oh, right got through. That is how Ben Henderson got knocked out by RDA in a scramble trying to get up. Michael Chandler just teeing up.
Mammadov also has to maximize his positioning. There's the roll. Knee bar kept again by Henderson.
job by Adam Picolotti. He's in a good position to just keep controlling. He's got that arm behind the back. This is like chicken wing on that arm. And Benson.
He cannot go for the guillotine from here. He's thinking about it. He is. He's cranking on it hard. Trying to submit the submission specialist. This would be incredible.
How much energy does he want to devote to that?
Now he's trying to crank on the neck of Benson. He is going for that Darce. Where Benson is at, he's going to have a hard time closing it off. You can get this from being underneath. He just needs to create that pressure. He doesn't have it. Boom. Can he get it here with 1 minute on the clock? He is not going to get that choke there. He's got a great body triangle. What he should do right now is do not let Benson spin within your legs. And that's what's happening. Benson is going to end up in Picolotti's guard.
Looking for one of the biggest victories of his career. Here in round 2, it would be by far the biggest. Knocking off a former UFC and WEC champion. Henderson desperately trying to survive.
You're going to see Benson taking his arm and trying to extend his arm down to create a space between. Now he's taking his leg and bringing his leg into play with it. All smart defense by Benson Henderson.
He is a physical unicorn. He is an absolute beast and just something that physically does not make sense.
This guy is a monster.
Massive left hand. They said they would stand and trade. They meant it.
Romero lands the left again. That is just a bomb.
To think there were those that doubted Yoel Romero. Wow.
One of the most ferocious strikers in all of mixed martial arts. There is Melvin Manhoff.
Man, that is power, Sean.
Another spectacular knockout win.
No one's going to be any stronger than he is. No one's going to be any faster than he is at this weight.
Desperate to detonate a Cuban missile. That right cross. So many tools, so much talent, so much experience.
That is just massive.
It could not have ended any other way. By Melvin Manhoff, and it's over.
Yoel Romero is a freak of nature.
Man! Manhoff looking to finish it. He does.
Oh, that's it. Out.
Too soon.
Oh, that's it.
Manhoff looking to finish it. He does. Another spectacular knockout win.
They said they would stand and trade. They meant it.
As pulled by Melvin Manhoff, and it's over.
A good shot. Sat him to his butt.
He's got the leverage now, and he's letting the shots go.
He's got it right now.
He's had. Rolls back the years.
Not thinking more. Yeah, I'm actually. Oh! That was a big shot.
Massive shot from Manhoff, who looks to finish. Confidence, desperate and trying to cover up, and has done remarkably well to still be in this.
Let's give it up for Melvin Manhoff, ladies and gentlemen.
Taken apart bit by bit. And Romero lands the left again. Is he going to get a dramatic late finish? Huge right hand. Polizzi stays on his feet. Brutal uppercut to finish things off.
There, watch the 1-2. Down goes Polizzi. Hits him with a couple of shots. One shot right there, but here comes. That is just massive.
This is what I was talking about. Scope did a lot of work trying to get the finish. How tired is he now? Now he's looking for the finish. Scope is hard. And Queally in the most dramatic fashion.
Oh, beautiful up kick. High. Lee McCourt, that landed.
And of course, now the up kick leading into a potential triangle choke here by McCourt.
There is space, but we'll see if Janae Harding enough to be able to stay with it.
In trouble, there's the tap, and just like that, Liam McCourt comes back to submit Janae Harding.
Watch this, boom. right on the jawline. That was a big game changer right there for Lee McCourt. That started the downfall. When you see her now pull her over, now it's getting tight. She's going towards the head. Gets the tap.
He's going for it now. He's got his legs. It's going to be tight.
That's it. A brilliant performance bouncing back by Ben Henderson.
Outstanding.
Oh, that's it. Mayoff looking to finish, and he does.
Look at that lean into this punch.
Bang. It's clipping, and still the force, the power, the technique of Melvin Manhoff puts Marshall to bed.
Also an accurate shot right behind the ear. That's a knockout spot. You will see Marshall is done.
He's the lockup right. He was going palm to palm. Get this right now. That is tight.
And that's it. Matt Burnell records his 9th submission win, improving to 15-3 and 2-0 in Bellator MMA.
Right here, you saw once he got that arm around the neck, he didn't go for the lock. He went palm to palm and squeezed, and it's the ability to press in with the chest, have a big chest to bear, create that squeeze that even though it's not locked, it's so tight, you're either going to have to tap or not.
They both come to fight all right.
The body shot, the body kick is on. Count goes down, and Carvalho ground and pound and gets the win.
And right there, that one came up right up underneath the liver, right up underneath the elbow and caught the liver. You could just see, he just wilted back and sat to his butt. And then Carvalho was able to get in there and jump in for the mount and the finish.
Michael Chandler trying to lock in.
Michael Chandler has this. On a normal opponent, that would have worked.
Right got through. That is how Ben Henderson got knocked out by RDA in a scramble trying to get up. Michael Chandler just teeing up. Mamadov also has to maximize his positioning. There's the roll. Nebo kept again by Henderson.
Nice job by Adam Piccolati. He's in a good position to just keep controlling. He's got that arm behind the back.
This seems to like chicken wing on that arm. And Benson.
He cannot go for the guillotine from here.
He's thinking about it.
He is. He's cranking on it hard. Trying to submit the submission specialist. This would be incredible.
How much energy does he want to devote to that?
Now he's trying to crank on the neck of Benson.
He is going for that Darce. Where Benson is at, he's going to have a hard time closing it off.